Hey guys, tonight we explore a world steeped in myth, but one you haven't heard before. Imagine a sky that is slowly forgetting itself, the stars winking out one by one, like embers in a dying fire. You stand in this world not as a hero or a demigod, but as a quiet craftsman watching the lights go out. Your quest, should you choose to accept it, involves facing down primordial forces and apathetic gods. The survival rate for these divine errands is, historically speaking, not great. You'll probably be fine though. Probably. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you watching from? What time is it in your little corner of the world? Drop it in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your workshop smells of cedar oil and polished brass. It's a scent that used to mean purpose, a scent that promised clarity. Now, it just smells like nostalgia. You are a thaumascopist, a maker of wonderscopes, or as most people call them, telescopes. Or at least you were. It's hard to be in the business of looking at the stars when the stars themselves have apparently quit. Each night you climb the rickety ladder to your rooftop observatory, a small domed room filled with the silent skeletons of your craft. Telescopes of all sizes stand like solemn sentinels, their brass barrels aimed at a sky that is almost entirely blank. It's a graveyard of lenses and gears, and you are its lonely keeper. A few years ago, the sky was a tapestry of shimmering diamonds, a chaotic, beautiful mess that storytellers and sailors had relied on for millennia. Now it's a murky, bruised purple like an old blanket, with almost all of its sequins pulled off. Only one star remains, a faint, stubborn pinprick of light, named Hesperos by the old poets. It flickers weakly in the west, a final candle against an encroaching void. Your hands, calloused and precise, run over the cool barrel of your largest creation, the Astraeus Major. It took you 5 years to build, grinding the primary lens from a single flawless piece of obsidian, until it was so perfect it seemed to drink the light. Now, it's little more than a very expensive, very beautiful paperweight. You sigh, the sound barely audible over the soft whirring of the gears you can't seem to stop polishing. It's a nervous habit, keeping the mechanisms clean as if their readiness could somehow coax the stars back. You remember reading about the Antikythera mechanism, that famous, impossibly complex clockwork device recovered from an ancient shipwreck. It was an artifact of bronze gears and intricate dials designed to predict eclipses and astronomical positions with a precision that shouldn't have been possible for its time. You'd spent your youth dreaming of building something so elegant, so connected to the celestial dance. You succeeded in a way. You built instruments that could pull the heavens close enough to touch. The irony is that the heavens simply left. Down in your workshop you light a single tallow lamp. Its warm, greasy light casts long, dancing shadows across the walls, which are covered in star charts that are now utterly useless. They feel like maps to a city that has sunk into the sea. You trace the faded lines of constellations that no longer exist, the Great Bear, the Swan, the Hunter. They are just stories now as unreal as the myths of gods throwing temper tantrums on Mount Olympus. Historians still argue whether the ancient stone circles and observatories were built for religious ceremony or for practical agriculture to track the seasons for planting and harvest. You suspect it was for something simpler wonder, the same wonder that is now in very short supply. You slump into your worn wooden chair, picking up a half-finished eyepiece. You're not even sure why you're still working. Force of habit. The town below is quieter these nights. The drunks don't sing on their way home from the taverna. The crickets have largely fallen silent. The world feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the last light to go out. People have tried everything. They've made sacrifices to Helios, the sun god, and Selene, the moon goddess. They've offered prayers to Astrea, the goddess of the stars who fled the earth long ago. Nothing. The gods, it seems, are as silent as the sky they once commanded. A faint breeze stirs the papers on your desk. It's colder than it should be for this time of year. A deep, penetrating chill that has nothing to do with the weather and everything to do with that vast, empty space above. You look at the single flickering point of light in the sky through your workshop window. Hesperos. It seems dimmer tonight. You find yourself whispering a prayer not to any god, but to the star itself. A foolish, desperate plea from a man whose life's work has been rendered meaningless. You think about the fringe beliefs of the old gem cutters, the ones who claimed diamonds were the crystallized tears of the gods or actual fragments of fallen stars. They believed that by holding one, you could hold a piece of the heavens. You look at your own hands covered in glass dust and metal polish. You've never held a star, but you've dedicated your life to getting closer to them. It feels like a betrayal, this silence, like the punchline to a very long, very unfunny joke played by a bored deity who decided cosmic larceny was a good hobby. The single flame of your lamp sputters, casting the room into near darkness for a moment before catching again. But in that brief second of gloom you feel it, a change in the atmosphere. The air grows heavy thick with a presence that feels older than stone, older than the sea. The silence is no longer empty. It's watchful. You stay perfectly still in your chair, your heart thudding a slow, heavy rhythm against your ribs. Something is here, and it hasn't come from the world of men. The air in your workshop grows thick and heavy, pressing in on you not with malice, but with an immense ancient gravity. The single lamp flame which had fought so bravely against the gloom finally gives up. It doesn't just go out, it's absorbed, swallowed by a darkness that feels absolute. This isn't the simple absence of light. This is a presence. It's the velvet blackness of the deepest ocean trench, the starless void between galaxies. You try to move to call out, but your limbs are leaden. An overwhelming weariness washes over you, a pull towards slumber so profound it feels like a universal law. Your head droops, your chin touching your chest, and as your consciousness unravels, you don't feel fear. You feel like you are sinking into the memory of night itself. You find yourself still in your chair in your workshop, but it's different. The star charts on the walls now glow with a faint silvery luminescence, the lines of forgotten constellations pulsing like dormant veins. Through the window, Hesperos is no longer a distant point of light, but a throbbing, wounded heart, casting slow, rhythmic waves of pale light into the room. The air hums with a silent melody, a chord that seems to vibrate at the very edge of hearing. From the deepest shadows in the corner, where the light from the phantom star cannot reach a figure, begins to coalesce. It's not a solid form, but something woven from twilight and dust motes dancing in a moonbeam. A woman draped in robes that seem stitched from the fabric of dusk, her features indistinct, and her edges blurring into the gloom around her. Her hair is a cascade of midnight, and within it you see the ghost images of stars that are no longer there. You know with a certainty that doesn't come from your own mind who she is. This is Nyx, the primordial goddess of the night. She doesn't carry the terrifying majesty the old poets described. She looks fragile, transparent. Her voice when she speaks is not a divine command, but a rustle of dry leaves on a forgotten path. Thaumascopist, she whispers the word echoing not in the room but inside your skull, the one who watches. She drifts closer, her feet making no sound on the wooden floorboards. My children are gone, she says, her form wavering like a heat haze. The Astra, you call them stars. To me, they are my breath, my blood, my memory, and they have been taken. The word hangs in the air cold and sharp. She is one of the very first beings born directly from chaos at the dawn of creation. Her offspring are not just the pretty lights in the sky, but fundamental forces that govern existence. Hypnos, the god of sleep. Thanatos, the personification of death. And even the Oneiroi, the very spirits of dreams. This ancient lineage gives her a terrifying sort of power. You recall a quirky tidbit from a scroll you read once in Homer's Iliad. Even the mighty Zeus, king of the gods, backed down from a confrontation with Nyx, afraid to offend the ancient knight. The being before you now seems a pale reflection of that power, a queen whose kingdom has been stolen. They are not dead. She continues, her voice gaining a flicker of strength fueled by sorrow. They have been locked away, caged. Their light is being siphoned, used for vanity. She gestures vaguely towards the heavens, a motion of profound weariness. The ones on the mountain have grown bored. They seek new adornments for their halls, new toys to distract from their own fading relevance. You want to ask how, why, but your mortal tongue feels clumsy and useless in this dreamlike state. She seems to understand. The Olympians are children playing with forces they no longer respect, but they cannot hide their theft from their mother. A flicker of the old fearsome Nyx sparks in her shadowy eyes. But I'm too weak. Without the light of my children, I am fading, unraveling, returning to the chaos from which I was born. This is why she has come to you. Not to a hero, not to a king, but to a humble craftsman. The gods listen only to power and praise, she whispers. But you have spent a lifetime listening to the silence. Your hands know how to shape glass and metal to find truth in the void. You do not seek glory. You seek to see. Scholars debate whether the primordial deities like Nyx were ever truly worshipped with temples and sacrifices, or if they were seen more as vast, impersonal concepts. Standing before her now, you understand. She is not a goddess who demands worship. She is a fundamental reality, and she is breaking apart. She raises a hand, and from one of her shadowy fingers a single tear falls. It doesn't drop to the floor. It hangs in the air before you, shimmering with the captured light of 1,000 lost stars. It's beautiful and heartbreaking. As it drifts closer, it solidifies into a small, smooth lens of swirling obsidian-like glass. It's cool to the touch, yet it hums with a latent energy. This will guide you. Nyx breathes her form, growing fainter, more transparent. The walls of your workshop begin to dissolve, the glowing star charts, fading back into simple paper and ink. It is a piece of my own sorrow. It will not show you a path on a map. It will show you the way to what has been lost. Her final words echo as the dream evaporates, her presence receding like the tide. Find my children mortal. Make the sky remember itself. You feel a gentle jolt and your eyes flutter open. You are back in your chair in the cold, dark workshop. The air is still, but cupped in your palm, real and solid, and humming with a strange, silent music, is a tear-shaped lens of polished night. The lens in your palm is an impossible object. It's as dark as a starless midnight, yet it seems to drink the faint lamplight, swirling the energy within its depths. It's heavy, far heavier than a piece of glass. Its size should be weighted, with a sorrow so ancient it feels like a geological force. You hold it up to the window, towards the solitary flicker of Hesperos. Looking through Nyx's tear, the star doesn't just appear closer, it appears known. You see not a ball of burning gas, but a lonely sentinel, a grieving survivor whispering a eulogy into the void. The sight sends a shiver down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold. This is no ordinary lens. It's a key. You spend the rest of the night in a daze, caught between the lingering unreality of the dream and the solid, undeniable weight of the lens in your hand. Sleep is impossible now. Every time you close your eyes, you see the face of Nyx, her features woven from starlight and shadow, her voice echoing in the hollows of your mind. Make the sky remember itself. How is a mortal man supposed to do that? You're a craftsman, a builder of instruments, not a hero from the epics. You don't have a magic sword or sandals with wings. Your greatest weapon is a finely ground piece of glass and an unhealthy amount of patience. As the first weak light of dawn filters through the dusty windows, you unroll a fresh sheet of papyrus on your workbench. You place the lens gently in the center. It does nothing. It just sits there, a pool of perfect darkness. You remember her words. It will not show you a path on a map. It will show you the way to what has been lost. You sigh, running a hand through your hair. This is going to be more complicated than you thought. This is less a map and more a divine dowsing rod for cosmic despair. Your gaze drifts around your workshop, over the useless star charts and the silent hulking forms of your telescopes. What is lost? The stars, wonder, hope. You think about your neighbours, about the fisherman who no longer has a reliable sky to navigate by, about the farmers whose planting cycles are falling into disarray. You think of the children who will never lie on their backs and trace a shimmering scorpion or a celestial archer across the heavens. Your quest isn't just for a primordial goddess, it's for them, for the mundane, beautiful starlit world that has been stolen. With a sudden clarity, you realise the lens isn't meant to be used on a map of parchment. It's meant to be used on a map of the heart. You pick it up again, its surface impossibly smooth against your fingertips. You close your eyes, clearing your mind of everything but the one single feeling that has driven your entire life, the longing to see what is distant, the yearning for the stars. You hold the lens to your closed eye, not trying to see through it, but to feel through it. At first, there is nothing but the familiar thud of your own pulse, but then a faint thread of connection spools out from the lens, a gossamer filament of light only your mind can perceive. It pulls gently but insistently, not in any cardinal direction, but towards a concept, towards a place of immense hollow grandeur, towards a peak that scrapes the heavens, a place shrouded in cloud and ego. Olympus, of course. Where else would bored gods keep their stolen treasures? You open your eyes, the filament of light vanishing from your mind's eye, but the certainty of the destination remains. The lens has given you the where. The how is still a terrifyingly blank page. You can't just walk up to the gates of Olympus. The home of the gods is not listed in any mortal guidebook. It's said to exist both physically on the highest peak in Greece and simultaneously in a metaphysical space, a realm apart from the mortal world. Historians still argue whether the historical Mount Olympus was the true seat of the gods, or merely a symbolic earthly anchor for a divine realm. As you ponder this, you suspect the answer is both, which is not at all helpful for someone trying to plan a trip. You need a real map. Not a celestial one, but a terrestrial one. You rummage through a dusty chest in the corner, a repository of old projects and forgotten journeys. Beneath a stack of schematics for a water clock you never finished, you find it a worn, leather-bound portfolio of maps charting the winding roads and rugged coastlines of Greece. You unroll the chart for the northern regions, your finger tracing the coastline moving inland towards the formidable mountain range that splits the sky. There it is, Mount Olympus, a name on a map, a physical place. Your journey has a starting point. You look from the mundane ink and paper map to the celestial artifact in your other hand. One shows you a path of dirt and stone, a journey of miles and days. The other shows you a path of longing and sorrow, a journey into the heart of myth itself. To succeed, you'll have to navigate both at the same time. You remember a strange historical tidbit. Ancient Greek cartographers didn't always orient their maps with north at the top. Some maps were oriented towards the east, towards the sunrise, while others were aligned with prevailing winds or even religious sites. It was a reminder that maps are not just tools of geography, but expressions of perspective. Your map will be oriented toward a single, impossible goal. A faint smile touches your lips for the first time in what feels like an eternity. This is insane. It's a fool's errand, a quest given by a ghost in a dream. But as you look at the empty sky at the silent telescopes and feel the solid weight of Nyx's tear, you know you have no other choice. Your life's work has been to build bridges to the stars. It seems only fitting that you should be the one to walk across one to bring them home. The world outside your workshop feels different now, charged with a purpose it lacked yesterday. The morning air, though still tinged with that starless chill, no longer feels like an ending. It feels like a starting line. You spend the day preparing, but your preparations are decidedly unheroic. There is no polishing of armor or sharpening of blades. You are a craftsman, and you will approach this problem as you have approached every other with careful planning and the right tools. You pack a simple leather satchel. Inside goes a water skin, a chunk of hard cheese, a small loaf of dense barley bread, and a bag of dried figs. It's the standard practical fare of any traveller. You also pack a small roll of tools, a miniature hammer, a set of precision screwdrivers, and a few polishing cloths. You don't know what you'll find on Olympus, but if it's a machine, you might just be able to fix it. Or more likely, break it. At the last moment, you tuck Nyx's lens into a soft deerskin pouch and hang it around your neck. It rests against your chest, a constant cool reminder of your impossible promise. As you move about your workshop gathering these mundane items, your gaze falls on a shelf of scrolls you've collected over the years. They are treatises on optics, astronomy, and philosophy. One of them, a copy of Plato's Republic, contains the famous allegory of the cave. You remember the story prisoners chained in a cave facing a blank wall watching shadows cast by a fire behind them. They believe the shadows are reality, unable to comprehend the true world of light and form outside. Looking up at the blank sky, you feel a kinship with those prisoners. The entire world has been forced back into the cave, and the gods are the ones holding the puppets. The journey ahead is long. From your coastal town in the south to the base of Mount Olympus in the north is a trek of several hundred miles. The roads of ancient Greece were notoriously challenging. While the Romans were famous for their straight-paved superhighways, the Greek road system was far more primitive, often little more than rutted dirt tracks that wound precariously through mountains and valleys. Travel was slow, dangerous, and deeply uncomfortable. This isn't going to be a jaunty road trip. As you make your final preparations, the path to Olympus seems less like a grand mythical highway, and more like a series of practical and slightly tedious problems to solve. You'll need to navigate forests where bandits might lurk. You'll have to cross rivers and hope the ferryman isn't a scoundrel. You'll need to find shelter in villages where a stranger might be met with suspicion. There's a strange dissonance between the celestial gravity of your mission and the dusty footsore reality of the journey. You're on a quest to confront the gods, but first you have to worry about getting blisters. Before you leave, you take one last look around your workshop. You cover the Astræus Major with a heavy canvas cloth like a shroud for a dear friend. You leave the star charts on the walls, a silent testament to a world that was. Part of you wants to leave a note to explain your absence, but who would you write it to, and who would believe you? Gone to Olympus to steal the stars back. Be back in a fortnight. Please water the plants. It seems unlikely to go over well. You step out of your workshop and pull the heavy wooden door shut. The click of the latch feels final, and punctuation mark at the end of a long chapter of your life. You stand for a moment in the quiet street, your satchel on your back, the lens cool against your skin. The path ahead is a simple dusty road leading out of town. It's the same road the olive merchants and goat herders use every day. It feels profoundly, almost absurdly normal. You take your first step, and then another. The road is hard-packed, earth scattered with loose stones that shift under your sandals. The air smells of dust and wild thyme. There are no omens, no crack of thunder, no eagle soaring overhead to signal the start of your epic quest. There is only the road, the sun on your back, and the quiet rhythmic crunch of your footsteps on the gravel. You walk for hours. The familiar landscape of your home region slowly gives way to rolling hills you've only ever seen from a distance. You pass by olive groves, their silver-green leaves shimmering in the pale sunlight. You see farmers working in their fields, their movements slow and deliberate, their faces turned away from the empty sky. No one pays you any mind. You're just another traveller on a long, anonymous road. Historians often debate the extent to which the average person in ancient Greece truly believed in the literal physical presence of the gods. Was it devout faith, or was it more a collection of cultural stories and civic rituals? Walking this lonely road, you start to think it was a bit of both. The gods were real enough to be blamed for a bad harvest, but distant enough that you didn't expect to bump into one on your way to the market. Now, however, that distance feels collapsed. The gods are no longer just stories. They are absentee landlords who have stripped the property bare. As dusk begins to settle, painting the empty sky in shades of bruised lilac and faded rose, you feel a profound sense of isolation. You are a tiny, insignificant figure, walking through a vast, silent world on an errand for a forgotten goddess. It is, you think, with a touch of dry humour, the most important and most ridiculous thing you have ever done. The road stretches on a pale ribbon disappearing into the growing twilight, and you just keep walking. You walk for days, the rhythm of your footsteps becoming a form of meditation. Your world shrinks to the immediate and the essential, the feel of the road beneath your worn sandals, the taste of water from your dwindling skin, the ever-present cool weight of the lens against your chest. The landscape changes with a slow geological patience, shifting from the coastal hills of your home to the flat, fertile plains of Thessaly. The land here is rich, but the mood is sour. You see fields of wheat that are stunted and pale, as if the soil itself has lost heart. Villages are pockets of weary suspicion. The sacred rule of hospitality, xenia, is strained. In the old days, a host was expected to welcome a traveller offering food, shelter and a bath before even asking their name. This was a sacred duty overseen by Zeus himself. To refuse a traveller was to risk divine retribution. Now doors are barred early, and your requests for lodging are met with flat-tired eyes. The gods have already shown their displeasure with the world. Why invite more trouble? You spend most nights sleeping in haylofts or in the sheltered lee of ancient gnarled olive trees, wrapped in your cloak against the unnatural chill. One evening, you share a small fire with a travelling merchant, a man whose face is a roadmap of wrinkles and cynicism. He tells you his business, selling vibrant pigments for dyes, is failing. Who needs a purple cloak when the world has gone grey, he asks, spitting a grapeseed into the fire. Colour is a luxury for hopeful people. His words stick with you. The world hasn't just lost its light, it's losing its colour, its vibrancy, its joy. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of walking, you see it. A towering, majestic presence on the horizon, its peaks wreathed in a perpetual crown of clouds. Olympus. It doesn't look like a mountain so much as a challenge issued by the earth to the sky. As you draw closer, the air itself begins to change. It thrums with a low latent power, a static charge that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. The mundane road begins to feel less mundane. The rocks by the path are sharper, the trees taller and more imposing. You leave the main track following the pull of the lens, which now tugs with a steady, insistent pressure. The path it leads you on is not a path at all, but a barely there trail winding up through steep pine-clad foothills. The climb is arduous. Your legs burn, your lungs ache. This is no mortal mountain. Every step feels like it's pushing against an invisible weight, a field of divine indifference designed to deter the unworthy. You think about the pilgrims who undertook long, punishing journeys to sacred sites like the oracle at Delphi or the sanctuary of Asclepius at Epidaurus. Their journeys were acts of faith. Yours is an act of cosmic burglary. After a full day of climbing, you arrive at a place that defies logic. It's a sheer cliff face, a wall of unbroken glistening marble that seems to stretch endlessly upwards. There is no path forward. It's a dead end. Exhausted and frustrated, you slump against a boulder, wondering if you've been a fool all along. You pull out the lens, its dark surface cool against your sweaty palm. As you hold it, a sliver of sunlight breaks through the oppressive clouds, striking the marble wall. And the wall shimmers. The light bends, refracts and splits not into a rainbow, but into a cascade of shimmering colourless light, like heat haze off a summer road. A figure steps out of the shimmering curtain, coalescing from the light itself. It is a woman clad in a chiton, woven from what looks like pure liquid iridescence. Her hair shifts through every colour imaginable, and some you've never seen. This is Iris, the personification of the rainbow and the messenger of the gods, or more specifically, of Hera. She looks at you not with hostility, but with a profound divine boredom. Another one, she says, her voice like the chime of crystal glasses. The lost ones, the petitioners, the hopelessly devout. The road is closed mortal. I am not a petitioner, you manage to say, your voice hoarse from the climb. She raises a perfect eyebrow. Oh, a tourist. Then I'm afraid the gift shop is also closed. Permanently. Her sarcasm is as bright and cutting as a shard of glass. You hold up the lens. I was sent. Her playful demeanour falters for a split second. She recognises the object, or rather the ancient sorrow it contains. A flicker of something pity respect crosses her face before being smoothed away by practised indifference. Nix. Of course, still holding grudges from the dawn of time. She sighs, a sound like wind through a prism. It doesn't matter. There is a gate, and there is a test. It is my duty to administer it. She gestures to the shimmering wall. The world you came from is fading to grey. The gods see it as a fitting backdrop for their melancholy. To pass, you must prove you can still see what they have forgotten. The air before the cliff face begins to swirl, and 5 large floating crystals materialize. They are all identical, perfectly cut, perfectly clear, like chunks of frozen water. One of these holds the memory of true colour, Iris explains. The others are echoes, illusions. Choose the correct one, and the gate will open. Choose wrong, and this mountain will forget you were ever here. You stare at the crystals. They are indistinguishable. There is no trick of the light, no subtle difference in their faceting. This is a test, not for the eyes, but for something deeper. You remember the merchant's words. Colour is a luxury for hopeful people. You close your eyes, holding the lens not to your eye, but to your heart. You don't try to see colour, you try to feel it. You reach out, letting your senses drift past the first crystal, the second, the third. They are all cold, beautiful, and empty. The fourth is the same. But as your mind approaches the 5th crystal, you feel it. A tiny, almost imperceptible warmth. A faint vibration of joy. The memory of a poppy field in spring, of a sapphire sea, of a lover's crimson blush. It is the feeling of hope. You open your eyes and point. That one. Iris's bored expression cracks into a genuine faint smile. Well, I'll be, she murmurs. The crystal you indicated pulses with a soft internal light, and the marble wall before you dissolves into a shimmering silent archway of pure rainbow. It seems there's a flicker of defiance left in your world after all. Welcome to Olympus, mortal. Try not to break anything. You step through the rainbow archway, and the world on the other side is a shock to the senses. The air is thin and crisp, smelling of ozone, wild mountain flowers, and something else. Something like old cold stone and forgotten wine. The oppressive weight of the climb vanishes, replaced by a strange lightness, as if gravity itself is merely a suggestion here. You stand on a path of polished white marble that winds through a landscape of impossible beauty and profound neglect. This is not the Olympus of the poets, teeming with life and raucous divine energy. This is a place that has fallen into a state of elegant decay. You see magnificent colonnades leading nowhere, their fluted columns overgrown with a silvery moss-like substance. You pass by serene reflecting pools whose water is still and stagnant, covered with a thin film of iridescent dust. Fountains shaped like leaping dolphins are bone dry, their mouths open in silent, thirsty gasps. The silence is the most unsettling part. It's not a peaceful silence, it's a heavy listening silence, the kind that follows a magnificent performance when the audience has long gone home. The path leads you into a vast central courtyard, a kind of divine agora, and here, scattered amongst the crumbling architecture, are the gods. They are not the radiant, fearsome beings of myth. They are bored, utterly cosmically, soul-crushingly bored. You see Ares, the god of war, slumped on a marble bench, idly picking at a loose thread on his magnificent bronze cuirass. There is no fire in his eyes, only a dull, listless apathy. He looks less like a god of glorious slaughter, and more like a man waiting for an appointment he doesn't want to attend. Nearby, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, stares at her own reflection in a polished shield, but there is no vanity in her gaze. She prods at her perfect cheek with a perfect finger, her expression one of vacant inquiry, as if she's trying to remember what her own face is for. She's surrounded by a flock of doves, but they don't coo or flutter. They just sit silently on the ground around her little grey statues of forgotten affection. You walk past Apollo, the god of music and light, leaning against a pillar. His golden lyre rests beside him, its strings coated in a fine layer of dust. He isn't playing, he's just staring into the middle distance, his shoulders slumped. He looks like a musician who has forgotten his own favourite song. This is the god who was supposed to drive the chariot of the sun to bring light and reason to the world. Now his own light seems to have dimmed to a pilot light. It's a scene of divine ennui. They are immortal beings possessing unimaginable power, and they have run out of things to do. They have loved, fought, schemed, and created for millennia. They have seen empires rise and fall like the tides, and now they have reached the end of their own story. There are no more worlds to conquer, no more mortals to meddle with, no more great epics to star in. All that is left is the endless, unchanging perfection of their own existence, and it has become a prison. Historians still argue whether the decline of ancient Greek religion was due to the rise of philosophy and rationalism, or the eventual dominance of Christianity. Standing here, you suspect a third option. The gods simply got tired of their own narrative. They grew weary of the constant drama, the petty jealousies, the endless cycle of praise and sacrifice. They retreated into their perfect home and discovered that perfection is a gilded cage. You notice that none of them seem to see you, or if they do, they don't care. A mortal in their midst should be a cause for alarm or at least curiosity, but your presence registers with all the impact of a single falling leaf in a vast, petrified forest. You are too small, too fleeting, too mortal to break through the thick, glassy shell of their boredom. It's the ultimate form of divine arrogance, the inability to be interested. You think of a quirky fringe theory you once read, which proposed that the gods of Olympus were not eternal beings, but were more like psychic batteries, powered by the belief and worship of mortals. As humanity's focus shifted, their power waned, leaving them as hollowed-out shells of their former glory. Looking at the listless figures around you, the theory doesn't seem so fringe anymore. They are like beautiful, intricate clocks that have simply wound down. The lens around your neck begins to thrum a low, insistent pulse of sorrow. It's not your sorrow, it's Nyx's grief amplified by this place of stolen light. The lens pulls you forward past the apathetic deities, across the silent courtyard, towards a towering structure at the far end. It's a building that seems newer, sleeker, and more out of place than the surrounding classical architecture. It is a large, windowless rotunda made of gleaming black obsidian, its surface so polished it reflects the grey, empty sky like a dark mirror. There are no guards, no gates, no warnings. There doesn't need to be. The sheer oppressive aura of "do not enter" radiating from it is more potent than any army. This is where they're keeping them. This is the vault for the stolen stars. You place a hand on the cold, smooth wall of the rotunda, and you feel it, a faint, frantic, trapped vibration from within. The silent scream of a million caged lights. The obsidian rotunda feels like a void given physical form. Its surface is cool and unnervingly smooth without a single seam or joint. You walk its entire circumference, your hand trailing against the polished stone, searching for a door, a handle, a keyhole, anything. But there is nothing. It is a perfect, impenetrable sphere of darkness. The vibrations from within are stronger now, a desperate, silent tremor that travels up your arm and settles in your chest. It's the collective pulse of a million captured stars, a frantic, caged energy that contrasts sharply with the listless apathy of the gods outside. Frustrated, you press your ear against the wall. You expect to hear something, a hum, a roar of cosmic energy. Instead, you hear a faint, rhythmic ticking, a slow, deliberate click-clack like the escapement of a colossal clock. It's a sound of mechanical precision, not celestial chaos. This isn't just a prison, it's a machine. You pull the lens from its pouch. Holding it to your eye, you look at the obsidian wall again. The black surface dissolves. It becomes a window into the heart of the structure, and what you see steals your breath. The interior is not a vast, empty chamber. It is filled from floor to ceiling with a single, immense, intricate machine. It's an orrery, a mechanical model of the cosmos, but one of such staggering complexity and beauty that it could only have been conceived by a divine mind. Gears of polished silver, some as small as your thumbnail, and others the size of millstones, mesh with silent fluid precision. Crystalline rods connect them to spheres of shimmering captured light. These are the stars. Each one is encased in a delicate cage of what looks like spun moonlight, suspended in the vast clockwork web. The entire mechanism rotates with that slow, hypnotic ticking, a silent, orderly dance. The gods haven't just stolen the stars, they have catalogued them, tamed them, and forced them into a predictable mechanical ballet. This is the ultimate expression of their ennui. They have taken the wild, chaotic, beautiful mystery of the night sky and turned it into a piece of decorative art, a celestial music box that plays a single, silent, repeating tune. It's beautiful in a sterile, heartbreaking way. It's the work of gods who have lost their capacity for wonder and replaced it with a need for control. You see familiar patterns, the ghost of the great bear, the swan the hunter, all moving in their prescribed orbits, their light not shining outwards, but being drawn inwards, siphoned off through tiny crystalline conduits that run through the arms of the orrery. The energy seems to be channeled towards a large glowing crystal at the very centre of the machine, which pulses with a soft, self-satisfied light. They're using the stars to power a glorified lava lamp. Your craftsman's mind is simultaneously appalled and fascinated. You recognise the principles of its construction, the epicyclic gears, the counter-rotating rings. It's like a vastly more complex version of the Antikythera mechanism you once obsessed over. The historical artifact from that ancient shipwreck was a miracle of human ingenuity and attempt to understand the heavens. This divine orrery is an act of cosmic hubris, an attempt to own them. You lower the lens, the vision of the interior fading, but the knowledge of it burned into your mind. You now understand the silence, the lack of guards. The machine is the lock. It's a puzzle box of divine engineering. To free the stars, you would have to dismantle the machine. And to do that, you would have to find a way inside. You again circle the rotunda this time, not looking for a door but for a flaw, a weak point, a maintenance hatch. Surely even a divine machine needs a tune-up now and then. Your fingers, trained by years of working with intricate mechanisms, trace every inch of the polished surface. And then you find it. Not a seam, but a subtle change in temperature. A single hand-sized patch of the obsidian that is marginally warmer than the rest. Pressing the lens against it, you look again. The vision returns, but this time you are focused on the inner workings just behind this specific spot. You see a complex series of tumblers and pressure plates, a lock mechanism of staggering intricacy. It's not a keyhole, it's a combination lock, but the combination isn't a series of numbers. It's a sequence of celestial alignments, a specific configuration of the orrery that has to be achieved for the lock to open. It's a moment in time, a specific star date from a sky that no longer exists. Despair washes over you. The combination could be anything. The moment Achilles fell at Troy. The instant Odysseus returned to Ithaca. The second Zeus decided to turn his latest girlfriend into a cow to hide her from Hera. It's an impossible, unguessable password. It's a bit like modern two-factor authentication, but instead of getting a code on your phone, you need to know the exact star pattern from 3:15 p.m. on the second Tuesday of the Peloponnesian War. As you lean your forehead against the cool obsidian defeated, you feel a presence behind you. The air stirs, carrying the scent of cosmic dust and old parchment. A voice slow and heavy as a grinding glacier speaks. It is beautiful, is it not? A perfect, orderly cosmos. Much better than the messy, unpredictable original. You turn your heart pounding to face the machine's creator, or at least its keeper. Standing before you is a figure who seems carved from the twilight itself. He is immense, but not in the muscular, brutish way of Ares. His is a size born of immense age and gravity, like an old mountain. He wears simple dark robes that seem to absorb the faint light around them. His hair and beard are long and the colour of iron filings streaked with veins of silver that glitter like distant dying stars. His face is a landscape of ancient lines, but his eyes are the most captivating and dreadful part of him. They hold the deep, weary resignation of someone who has seen galaxies born and die, and is no longer impressed by either event. This is no Olympian. This is something older, something from a different, grander, and more sorrowful epoch. Astraeus, you breathe the name coming to you not from memory, but from the humming lens at your chest. He is one of the Titans, the second-generation deities, born from Uranus the sky and Gaia the earth. He was the Titan god of dusk stars and planets, and the father of the four winds. In the old myths, he and his brothers were the four pillars that held the heavens aloft. After the Titans lost their great war against the Olympians, most were cast into the pit of Tartarus. But some, it seems, were given new, less glamorous jobs. Astraeus gives a slow, tired nod, as if confirming his own identity is a chore. I've been called that he says his voice a low rumble, like stones shifting deep within the earth. Now, I am the curator, the keeper of the collection. He gestures with a vast, slow-moving hand towards the obsidian rotunda, a retirement gift from Zeus, a position of honor he called it. A gilded cage is still a cage. There is no malice in his voice, only a bottomless, soul-deep weariness. This is not a guard you can fight, nor a villain you can outwit. This is a being who has been worn down by eternity itself. He is a prisoner as much as the stars he watches over. You have taken them. You say your voice small and thin in his immense presence. You have stolen the night. Taken is a strong word. Astraeus rumbles, looking at the rotunda with something akin to paternal disappointment. Relocated, housed in a more stable environment, the Olympians grew tired of the chaos, the unpredictability. They desired order, perfection, and this, he pats, the smooth black wall, is perfection. Every star in its place, every orbit calculated, no surprises, ever. He looks down at you, his ancient eyes seeming to see not just you, but the entire history of your short, fleeting mortal life. And why are you here, little flicker of life? Do you seek to shatter this perfection, to release chaos back into the sky, for what so sailors can find their way home? So poets can have something to rhyme with far. There's a hint of bitterness in his tone, the resentment of a master craftsman whose work is being criticized by a child. You hold up Nyx's lens. I am here for her, for their mother. Astraeus's weary expression softens for a fraction of a second. A memory of a different time, a different sky flickers in the depths of his eyes. Ah, Nyx, he murmurs. She would not appreciate this sterile art. She always preferred her children to be wild. He sighs, a sound like a distant avalanche. Her grief is a powerful thing, but it is not a key. The lock, you say, pressing your hand against the warm spot on the wall. The combination. I need to know the moment it is keyed to. The Titan almost smiles. It's a sad, cracking expression like dry earth splitting apart. Even if I told you, what would you do? You cannot manipulate the stars, mortal. You cannot turn back time to the moment the lock was set. The combination, he explains, is the precise alignment of the heavens at the very instant the last star was placed in the orrery and the door was sealed. It's a moment known only to the machine and to its creators, an unguessable, unreachable password. This detail is a classic example of divine thinking reminiscent of certain historical puzzles. Think of the mystery surrounding the construction of the Great Pyramid. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians used long ramps, spiral ramps, or even water-based systems to lift the massive stones. The methods were so specific and context-dependent that without knowing the original builder's exact mindset, the puzzle remains unsolved. The orrery's lock is the same, a problem that is impossible without the key of its creator's memory. This quest is pointless, Astraeus states, not as a threat, but as a simple geological fact. The Olympians will not allow their collection to be disturbed. And I must uphold my duty. But as he says the word duty, you see a flicker of something else in his eyes. A deep, abiding loathing for the task. He is a god of stars, forced to be their jailer. It is a cruel, ironic punishment worthy of Zeus's most creatively petty moments. He doesn't want to stop you. He simply doesn't believe you can succeed. You look from the Titan's tired face to the humming, silent prison. He's right. You cannot fight him. You cannot outsmart the lock. You cannot hope to breach the walls of this place. A direct approach is doomed. But you are not a hero. You are a craftsman. And a craftsman knows that sometimes to fix a machine, you don't need to force the gears. You need to remind it what it was built for. An idea begins to form in your mind. A plan so audacious and so reliant on empathy, rather than force, that it might just be foolish enough to work. You won't have to break your vow, you say to the ancient Titan, your voice gaining a sliver of confidence. And I won't have to break the lock. But I will need you to stand aside and watch. Astraeus looks down at you, a flicker of genuine curiosity in his ancient eyes for the first time. Watch what mortal? I'm going to talk the machine into opening the door for me. Astrea stares down at you, his immense stony face a mask of cosmic disbelief. A low rumble starts deep in his chest, which you first take for a threat, but then realise is laughter. It's a dry, grating sound like continents, shifting, devoid of mirth, but full of ancient irony. Talk to it, he echoes. Mortal, it is a machine of gears and silver. It has no ears to hear, no heart to persuade. It understands only mathematics and alignment. Everything has a purpose. You counter your voice steadier than you feel. You were made to hold up the sky. The stars were made to shine. And this machine, you place your hand on the warm patch of the rotunda. This machine was made to replicate the heavens, but it's only replicating the image, not the meaning. It's a perfect copy of a book, but all the pages are blank. The Titan's laughter subsides, replaced by a deep listening stillness. He doesn't agree, but he doesn't dismiss you either. He crosses his colossal arms, his posture that of a weary cynic, willing to be entertained by one last foolish spectacle before the end of time. Proceed then, Thaumascopist, he rumbles. Show me this magic of yours. You turn your back on him, facing the smooth black wall. You have one chance. Your plan is born of a craftsman's logic. Every creation contains a sliver of its creator's intent. The gods who built this were at one time beings of wonder. They had to be. Somewhere buried deep within the cold mathematics of this machine, a memory of that wonder must still exist. A ghost in the divine machine. You take out your small roll of tools from your satchel, the miniature hammer, the polishing cloths, the precision screwdrivers. They look laughably inadequate against the scale of this divine prison, but you're not going to use them on the rotunda. You sit down on the cold marble floor, cross-legged, and carefully, deliberately, you begin to assemble something. You take the eyepiece from your satchel, the one you were working on back in your shop. You take a small, polished brass tube you use for focusing, and finally you take the tear of nicks. With the careful, practiced movements of a master artisan, you begin to build a new instrument. It's a small handheld telescope, but one of a kind no one has ever conceived. You use your tools not to force, but to fettle to align. You affix Nix's lens as the objective, the primary lens that gathers the light. You set your own man-made lens as the eyepiece, the part through which the gathered light is viewed. It is an instrument born of two worlds, one of divine sorrow, the other of mortal yearning. A bridge between the grief of a goddess and the hope of a man. As you work, you speak. You don't shout, you don't command. You talk to the rotunda in a low, calm voice, the same voice you use when you are coaxing a stubborn gear into place or polishing a flaw out of a lens. I know you are listening. You murmur your fingers, tightening a tiny brass screw. You were made to see the stars, but you are blind. You hold them in your heart, but you have never truly seen their light. You only see their position. You hold up the finished instrument. It's a small, strange-looking thing, a fusion of celestial darkness and earthly brass. This is a wonderscope, you say softly. It doesn't just magnify, it reveals. It shows the purpose behind the light. You press the objective lens, Nix's tear, flat against the warm spot on the obsidian wall. Then you put your eye to the other end. You are not trying to look in. You are reversing the function. You are forcing the machine to look out. To look through your creation, through the combined power of a mother's grief and a mortal's relentless hope. You are using your telescope not to see, but to be seen through. You close your other eye and focus all of your will, all of your longing for the stars into the eyepiece. You pour the memory of every constellation you've ever charted, every nebula you've ever marveled at, every shooting star you've ever wished upon into the lens. You are reminding the stars inside what they are. Not just points of light in a clockwork cage, but beacons of hope, guides for the lost inspiration for poets, and the silent audience to a million lovers' whispers. You are reminding them of their job. For a long moment, nothing happens. The only sound is the slow, relentless click-clack from within. Then the ticking falters. It misses a beat. Click, click. A deep, resonant hum begins to build inside the rotunda, a sound of immense awakening power. The frantic, trapped vibrations you felt before are coalescing, harmonizing, turning from a silent scream into a single defiant chord. The stars are remembering. Astraeus takes a half step back, his weary eyes widening in genuine shock. The warm spot on the wall against which your telescope is pressed begins to glow first, a faint white, then a brilliant, searing silver. The light is not coming from your instrument. It's coming from the machine itself answering your call. The intricate tumblers of the lock, which had been frozen for ages in their unguessable combination, begin to spin, not randomly, but with purpose. They are not aligning to the old code. They are writing a new one. The machine is overriding its own programming. With a sound like a sigh of freed pressure, a perfect circular section of the obsidian wall retracts, revealing a brightly lit doorway into the heart of the orrery. You lower the small telescope, your hand trembling. You did it. You didn't break the lock. You persuaded it. You reminded a divine machine of its soul. Astraeus stares at the open doorway, then at you, and for the first time the Titan god of stars looks truly utterly impressed. The Olympians built a prison of perfect logic, he says, his voice filled with a new strange tone of reverence. They never imagined someone would come along and defeat it with poetry. You step through the circular doorway into a world of light and motion. The interior of the orrery is even more breathtaking up close. You are standing on a narrow crystalline walkway that spirals down into the heart of the immense mechanism. All around you, the caged stars pulse with a renewed, vibrant energy, their light no longer being siphoned but shining with defiant brilliance. The machine is still turning, but its rhythm has changed. The slow, metronomic ticking has been replaced by a powerful harmonic hum, the sound of a symphony orchestra tuning up before a grand performance. The air is electric buzzing with freed potential. Astraeus follows you to the threshold but goes no further, his massive form filling the doorway. He looks upon the awakened machine with an expression of profound awe and sorrow. "I cannot enter," he rumbles, his voice heavy with the weight of his ancient vows. "My watch is over, but my sentence is not. I am bound to this place, but not to what it has become." He is the jailer, and even with the prison doors thrown open, he cannot leave his post. He looks down at you, a humble mortal craftsman standing in the heart of a divine machine you have single-handedly woken from its slumber. "They will not be pleased," he says, a statement of fact, not a warning. "The Olympians, you have stolen their favorite toy and given it back its soul. They do not appreciate such things. Let them be displeased," you say, your voice echoing slightly in the vast humming chamber. They can learn to find new hobbies. For the first time, the Titan's sad, cracked face breaks into a genuine broad smile. It's a tectonic event, a shift of ancient landscapes. "I have not felt hope for 3 millennia mortal," he says. "It is an unfamiliar sensation. Go, do what you must. The sky is waiting for its children." With a slow, deliberate movement, he places a hand over his heart in a gesture of solemn, heartfelt respect. Then he turns and resumes his post outside, a silent, watching guardian once more. You turn your attention to the task at hand. The stars are awake, but they are still caged. You walk down the spiraling crystalline path deeper into the clockwork forest of gears and light. Your tools feel absurdly small in your hands, but you know what you need to do. You approach the nearest star, a beautiful pulsating sphere of soft blue light, held in a delicate cage of what you now see is solidified moonlight. The cage has a lock, a tiny intricate mechanism like a miniature puzzle box. You examine it closely. It's not a keyhole lock, it's a resonance lock. It will only open when it feels a specific vibrational frequency. It's a security measure of breathtaking elegance. But you have the key. You hold your small, strange telescope, the one made of sorrow and longing, close to the lock. You don't touch it. You simply let the hum of Nyx's lens resonate with the lock. For a moment, nothing happens. Then with a soft chime like a single perfect musical note, the cage dissolves into a shower of shimmering dust, and the blue star is free. It doesn't shoot away. It hovers before you for a moment, its light washing over you in a wave of pure, unadulterated gratitude. It dips once in a gesture of celestial acknowledgement, and then it soars upwards, a streak of brilliant sapphire, phasing through the obsidian ceiling of the rotunda as if it were mere smoke. It is going home. A profound joy, sharp and clear as a crystal bell, rings through you. You move to the next star, a fiery crimson one, and repeat the process. The lock chimes, the cage vanishes, and the star ascends. Then a green one, a gold one, a white one. One by one you move through the orrery, not as a saboteur, but as a liberator. You are a cosmic locksmith opening cages with a key made of empathy. The process is slow, deliberate, and meditative. It takes hours. As you work, you begin to recognize them, the stars you once knew so well. There's the brilliant, steady light of Vega, the fiery heart of Antares, the clustered siblings of the Pleiades, who seem to hum a joyful, reunited tune as you free them together. It's a reunion with old friends you thought you had lost forever. Finally, after what feels like a lifetime, you reach the last one. It is Hesperos, the evening star, the one stubborn survivor who flickered alone in the empty sky. Its cage is more ornate than the others, its lock more complex. It takes all of your concentration to attune the lens to the correct frequency. The lock holds for a long moment, resisting, and then with a sigh of sound it too dissolves. Hesperos is free. It hovers before you, its light warmer and brighter than all the others, and in its glow you feel not just gratitude but a deep, shared sense of lonely endurance. It knows what it was like to be the last candle in the dark. It too soars upwards, the final note in a great celestial exodus. The orrery around you falls silent. Its purpose fulfilled, its gears slow to a stop. The central crystal, once glowing with siphoned power, is now dark and inert. The machine is just a machine again, a beautiful, intricate and empty shell. Your work is done. You turn and walk back up the spiraling path, your small tools in your hand, the lens cool and quiet against your chest. As you step out of the rotunda, you see that the sky above Olympus is no longer grey. It is a deep, velvety black, and it is blazing with a riot of restored, shimmering, triumphant stars. The sight is so beautiful, it makes your knees weak. You take a deep breath, the air no longer feeling empty and cold, but full of promise and distant light. Your quest is over. But now you carry a new weight. Not the weight of a goddess's sorrow, but the burden of a secret. The knowledge that you, a simple craftsman, faced the gods and restored the heavens. It is a secret you will have to carry back to a world that will never know the role you played. A world that is at this very moment looking up in collective, joyful disbelief as the sky finally remembers itself. The journey down from Olympus is surreal. The oppressive, invisible weight is gone, and each step feels light, almost buoyant. The path that was once a punishing vertical struggle now seems to guide your feet, the stones settling comfortably under your sandals. The air no longer charged with divine melancholy is crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and distant thawing snow. But more than anything, it is the sky that has changed. Even in the daylight, the heavens seem deeper, the blue a richer, more vibrant hue, as if the backdrop has been freshly painted. You know that when night falls again, it will be a spectacle of breathtaking beauty. You pass through the shimmering rainbow gate without seeing Iris. Perhaps her watch is over, or perhaps she is simply somewhere else admiring the restored palette of the world. You descend through the foothills, the world of gods, slowly receding behind you, the world of mortals spreading out before you. It feels like waking from a strange, powerful dream. The lens of Nyx, which had been a constant humming presence against your chest, is now inert. Its purpose is fulfilled. It is just a beautiful, tear-shaped piece of dark glass, now a memento of a promise kept. You travel for days, retracing your steps, but the journey feels entirely different. The world is waking up. You hear it in the confident birdsong at dawn. You see it in the vigorous green of the new shoots in the fields. And you see it in the faces of the people. The tired, suspicious glances have been replaced with a kind of communal, bewildered joy. In the evenings, entire villages spill out from their homes, not to work or to trade, but simply to stand and stare upwards as the first stars begin to appear. You hear snippets of conversation as you pass through tavernas and marketplaces. Everyone has a theory. Some say a forgotten god has awakened. Others claim it was a boon from a merciful Zeus. A few whisper that it was a celestial alignment, a once-in-a-millennium cosmic event. No one, not in their wildest imaginings, would ever guess the truth, that it was the work of the quiet, unassuming man in the dusty cloak sipping watered-down wine in the corner. You become an anonymous audience member at the premiere of your own masterpiece. You feel a strange sense of dislocation. You are in the world, but no longer entirely of it. You carry the secret of Olympus in your heart, a silent, heavy stone. How could you ever explain it? How could you describe the listless apathy of Ares or the ancient weariness of a Titan? How could you make someone understand the feeling of freeing a star? These are experiences without words, moments that exist outside the boundaries of normal human life. So you say nothing. You just nod and smile when people marvel at the sky, sharing in their joy, while nursing your own profound, lonely knowledge. Finally, you see the familiar coastline of your home. Your town nestled by the sea looks the same as when you left it. But as you walk the final mile, you realize something has changed within you. The thought of returning to your workshop, to your silent telescopes and dusty star charts no longer brings comfort. It feels like a step backwards. Your life's work was to see the stars. But you have done more than that. You have touched them. You have freed them. To go back to simply looking at them through a lens feels insufficient. You stand at a crossroads just outside your town. One path leads back to your old life, to the workshop and the quiet routines of a craftsman. The other path leads along the coast towards the unknown, towards a life you have not yet imagined. You look down at the lens in your hand. It is a beautiful, silent thing. You could keep it a trophy of your impossible journey, but you know that to hold on to it would be to hold on to the past, to define yourself forever as the man who went to Olympus. With a gentle final gesture, you walk to the edge of the cliff overlooking the sea. You hold the lens up one last time, watching the sunlight play across its dark, smooth surface. You think of Nyx, her sorrow now eased. You think of Astraeus, the weary warden now guarding an empty vault. And you think of the stars now shining freely in their rightful home. Your part in their story is over. You kiss the lens a quiet thank you and farewell and toss it into the deep blue water. It makes a small splash and disappears, returning to the depths its secret safe with the sea. You turn your back on your hometown and take the coastal path. You don't know where you are going, and for the first time in your life you don't need a map to tell you. Your new life begins here on this lonely stretch of coast. You eventually find work on a small rocky island some miles from the mainland. The job is simple, solitary, and suits the new person you have become. You are the keeper of a lighthouse, a Pharologos. It's an old stone tower battered by wind and sea standing guard over a treacherous reef. It's a humble, practical structure, a far cry from the celestial mechanics of Olympus. But it has a purpose you understand. Your days are measured by the rhythm of the tides, your nights by the slow, sweeping beam of the great lamp. You polish the giant lens, you trim the wick, you keep the flame steady. It's craftsman's work, honest and essential. You are no longer trying to see the heavens. You are making a small piece of the earth safe for others. Instead of bringing the stars down to earth, you are raising a single man-made star to guide ships home. The loneliness doesn't bother you. You have the sea for company, its endless voice, a constant soothing presence. And you have the sky. Each night after your duties are done, you climb to the narrow balcony at the top of the tower and you watch. You watch the magnificent restored tapestry of the night sky, a sight that still fills you with a quiet, profound ache of joy. You know their names, their stories. You see them not as distant points of light, but as old friends. And in the steady, sweeping beam of your lighthouse, in your own small way, you feel like you are still one of them, a keeper of the light. Your life falls into a simple monastic rhythm governed by the sun and the sea. You wake with the gulls, their sharp cries, a raucous alarm clock. Your days are spent on the practical, repetitive tasks of a lighthouse keeper. You check the great lamp for soot polish, the massive lens until it gleams, and inspect the winding staircase for any cracks in the old stone. It's a physical grounding routine that leaves little room for celestial memories. You are no longer the thaumascopist who walked with gods. You are simply a man with a job to do. You learn the language of the island. You learn how the wind sounds different when it carries rain versus when it is dry. You learn to read the moods of the sea by the colour of the water and the shape of the waves. The island is small, barely a mile across, a windswept collection of rock and hardy salt-stunted shrubs. Your only neighbours are the seabirds and the occasional pod of dolphins that plays in the turquoise water of the cove. This solitude is a balm. It allows the silence in your heart, the secret of Olympus, to settle to become a part of your own landscape, rather than a story you are constantly suppressing. The mainland is a distant, hazy smudge on the horizon. A supply boat comes once a season bringing oil for the lamp flower salt, and news from a world that feels increasingly foreign. The boatman is a taciturn old salt named Lycomedes, who seems to view conversation as a waste of good breathing air. He leaves your supplies, takes your shortlist for the next season, and is gone within the hour. This suits you perfectly. One autumn, the sky turns a bruised, angry purple. The sea, usually so placid, becomes a churning cauldron of grey, white-capped waves. A storm is coming, a monster of a storm. Lycomedes had warned you of it on his last visit, his one moment of chattiness all year. A real Poseidon-sized tantrum, he'd grunted. Secure the shutters. You spend the day doing just that, making sure every window is barred, every loose stone is weighted down. You bring extra oil and supplies up into the main chamber of the lighthouse. As dusk falls, the storm hits. It is a force of raw elemental fury. The wind howls around the stone tower, a shrieking demonic chorus. Rain comes down, not in drops, but in horizontal sheets lashing against the thick glass of the lamp room. The sea roars, waves crashing against the base of the lighthouse, with the force of battering rams, sending tremors all the way up the ancient stone structure. You keep the great lamp lit, its steady, sweeping beam, a single defiant eye in the face of the maelstrom. The light is a promise. It says, I am here. There is solid ground. There is hope. You feel a strange kinship with the tower. You are both solitary, steadfast things built to withstand the rage of the elements and to offer a small beacon of light in the darkness. It's a humble echo of your grander quest, but it feels just as vital. The storm rages for 2 days and 2 nights. Sleep is impossible. The noise is deafening, the vibrations constant. You live on hard bread and water, your world reduced to the lamp room, the howling wind and the crashing sea. On the 3rd morning, you wake from a fitful doze to a strange new reality silence. The wind has died down, the rain has stopped. The sea's roar has softened to a tired, rhythmic sigh. You unbar the heavy oak door at the base of the tower and step outside. The world is scoured, clean washed in the pale, watery light of the post-storm dawn. The air smells of salt ozone and wet rock. The island is littered with debris seaweed driftwood and the sad, broken shells of sea creatures tossed ashore by the violence of the waves. You walk the perimeter of your small island assessing the damage. A section of the stone jetty has been washed away. A few of the hardiest shrubs have been uprooted. It is a scene of chaos, but a natural chaos, the simple, amoral aftermath of nature's power. It is nothing like the cold, deliberate stillness of Olympus. As you round the far side of the island, heading towards the sheltered cove, you see something that makes you stop dead in your tracks. At the edge of the water, half tangled in a mass of dark brown kelp, is a figure, a human figure. From this distance, you can't tell if they are alive or dead. Your heart lurches. Castaways are rare, and survivors of a storm this ferocious are rarer still. You break into a run, scrambling over the slick, wet rocks, your sandals slipping. As you get closer, you see it is a woman. She is lying on her side, her face turned away from you. She is wrapped in what looks like layers of fine sea-green silk, now tattered and clinging to her form. Her hair is the colour of dark seaweed, long and fanned out across the pale sand. You reach her side, your breath catching in your throat. You kneel down, gently placing 2 fingers on her neck, searching for a pulse. It's there, faint, thready, but undeniably present. She is alive. You gently turn her shoulder to get a better look at her face, and as you do, you realise she is unlike any mortal woman you have ever seen. Her skin has a faint pearlescent sheen, and her features are of a strange, ethereal and devastating beauty. She is a gift or a curse left on your shore by the rage of the sea. You carry her back to the lighthouse, her body unnervingly light in your arms. She is unconscious, her head resting against your shoulder, the scent of salt and deep ocean clinging to her like a second skin. You lay her gently on your own narrow cot in the main living chamber, a small circular room with stone walls and a single shuttered window. The space is sparse, furnished only with your cot, a small wooden table and a chair. It feels profoundly inadequate for a guest of such otherworldly beauty. You build up the fire in the small hearth, the flames casting a warm, flickering glow across her pale face. As you cover her with your spare wool blanket, you take a moment to truly look at her. Her features are perfectly formed, but in a way that is subtly different from human women. Her cheekbones are a little too high, her lips a little too full, the curve of her eyebrows a little too graceful. It's as if a sculptor had tried to capture the essence of a wave in human form. Her skin, even in the firelight, seems to have that faint silvery luminescence you saw in the moss on Olympus. She sleeps for a full day and a night. You sit by her side, keeping the fire stoked occasionally, moistening her lips with a damp cloth. You find yourself watching the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of her chest, a simple, vital sign that is somehow more captivating than the celestial mechanics you once studied. On the second morning, her eyelids flutter open. Her eyes are the colour of the sea on a clear, deep summer day, a startling, luminous teal. They hold no fear, no confusion, only a vast, silent and ancient awareness. She looks at you, at the stone walls of the lighthouse, at the fire, taking it all in without a word. "You're safe," you say softly. "The storm brought you here." She continues to look at you, her expression unreadable. She opens her mouth to speak, but no sound comes out. Not a croak, not a whisper. Her lips form the shape of a word, but the effort produces only silence. A flicker of deep, profound frustration crosses her face before she smooths it away, replacing it with a mask of calm resignation. She cannot speak. The days that follow are a study in silent communication. You learn that her name is... well, you don't learn her name. You give her one in your mind, Thelxie, from an old word meaning enchantment. She is a patient and graceful presence in your solitary life. She recovers her strength quickly, but her voice never returns. Her silence is not an emptiness. It's a presence as tangible as the stone of the lighthouse. You fall into a new routine, a life built for two. You teach her the simple mechanics of the lighthouse lamp. She proves to be a quick study, her hands moving with a fluid, innate grace as she polishes the great lens. In return, she teaches you things you never knew. She shows you which pools among the rocks teem with tiny, sweet shrimp after the tide goes out. She points out the subtle shifts in the waves that predict a change in the weather far more accurately than your aching joints ever could. Your communication becomes a language of gesture and observation, a shared glance across the fire, the way she hands you a warm mug of herb tea, the way you leave a particularly beautiful seashell on her pillow. It's a quiet, intimate dance, but you long to know more to understand who she is, where she came from. The sea is the obvious answer, but that is no answer at all. One afternoon, as you sit on the rocks polishing a brass fitting for the lamp, she comes and sits beside you. She has a collection of shells in the lap of her silk dress. They are all different shapes, sizes and colours. Carefully, deliberately, she begins to arrange them on the flat surface of the rock between you. She places a large whorled conch shell down first. Then she points to it, and then to the sea you understand. Then she lays out a series of smaller fan-shaped shells like a path, a journey. She adds a cluster of jagged broken oyster shells, a storm. Finally, she places a single, perfect, pearlescent cowrie shell at the end of the path. She points to the cowrie and then to herself. It is a story told in the silent language of the ocean's leavings. But it is still a story without names. Who sent her on this journey? Why was she silenced? The questions hang in the air between you as vast and unanswered as the sea itself. You begin to contribute to the language. You use charcoal to draw pictures on flat pieces of driftwood. You draw your workshop, your telescopes, the empty sky. You try to draw the mountain, the orrery, the freed stars. It's a clumsy, inadequate attempt, and you're not sure how much she understands. But she watches your hands intently, her teal eyes full of a deep, empathetic intelligence. One evening, you are trying to teach her the names of the constellations that have returned to the sky. You point upwards, tracing the outline of the Great Bear. You say the name aloud. She looks up and then back at you. She picks up a piece of charcoal, and on a flat stone she doesn't draw the bear. She draws a perfect, intricate spiral the shape of a galaxy. Then she draws another and another. She is drawing a star chart of her own, one far older and vaster than any you have ever known. You realize with a jolt that you are not the teacher here. You are the student, and the silent woman who washed up on your shore knows more about the heavens than you could ever dream. The language of shells and charcoal drawings blossoms between you, a fragile, beautiful bridge across the chasm of her silence. Each day brings a new revelation, a new piece of her story told in metaphor and symbol. You learn that the great conch shell represents not just the sea, but a kingdom, a home. The path of fan-shaped shells was not just a journey, but an exile. And the jagged, broken shells of the storm were not just a storm, but a curse. This new knowledge changes how you see her. She is not a castaway. She is an exile. Her silence is not an affliction. It's a punishment. The realization sends a cold dread through you. Who could command such power? What being could silence a woman who draws galaxies from memory? The answer vast and terrifying whispers on the wind from the sea, one of the gods. This unspoken truth settles between you heavy and shimmering as the air before a thunderstorm. It adds a new layer of poignancy to your shared simple life. You are two people living in a quiet eddy of time, hiding from the grand, cruel narratives of the gods. You, the man who defied them and stole back their stolen light. She, the woman who was wronged by them and had her voice stolen away. You are both refugees from myth-seeking sanctuary in the mundane. As the seasons turn from the crisp air of autumn to the deep chill of winter, the lighthouse becomes a true home. The stone tower, once a symbol of your solitude, is now a vessel for your shared life. The constant presence of Thelxie fills its silent spaces. Her grace transforms the Spartan room. She weaves garlands of dried seaweed and sea oats that hang on the walls, their subtle, earthy scent mingling with the smell of lamp oil and wood smoke. She has a way of arranging pebbles on the windowsill that catches the morning light, just so scattering small, fleeting rainbows across the stone floor. You find yourself observing her in small, quiet moments, your heart aching with a tenderness that is both joyful and painful. You watch the way her hair catches the firelight, turning from the dark green of kelp to the bronze of a setting sun. You watch her hands long and elegant as she mends a tear in her silk dress with thread you've fashioned from your fishing line. You watch the way she smiles, a rare, breathtaking event when a pod of dolphins leaps from the water in the cove. You are falling in love with her. It's a slow, gentle and inevitable process, as natural as the tide, and you sense in her quiet way that she feels it too. It's in the way she looks at you when you return from checking the lobster pots, her teal eyes softening. It's in the way she will sometimes reach out and gently brush a stray piece of dust from your sleeve. It's in the way she falls asleep by the fire, her head slowly coming to rest on your shoulder. It is a love that has no need for words, a bond forged in shared silence and mutual sanctuary. But the sea is a constant whispering reminder of the power that separates you. On calm nights, you both sit on the narrow balcony at the top of the tower, beneath the full, brilliant canopy of the restored stars. The sweeping beam of the lighthouse illuminates the dark water in a slow, rhythmic pulse. On these nights, the salt wind seems to carry a sound, a faint, mournful melody that seems to rise from the depths of the ocean itself. At first, you dismissed it as a trick of the wind, the lonely song of your own mind. But you notice that whenever the sound is present, a deep sadness enters Thelxie's eyes. Her hands will clench, her posture will stiffen. She hears it too. It is the sound of her own stolen voice, a phantom limb of a song echoing from the watery kingdom she was banished from. You learn a bit about ancient maritime beliefs from one of Lycomedes's old sea charts. A quirky annotation on the chart mentions the Nereids, the 50 sea nymph daughters of the Titan Nereus. They were generally seen as benevolent spirits who helped sailors in distress. But the chart also included a fringe belief, a sailor's superstition, that a Nereid who fell in love with a mortal would lose her voice, her divine essence slowly draining away into the mortal world. You look at Thelxie, at her otherworldly grace, and her profound silence, and you wonder, is this what she is? A goddess choosing mortal love over her own divinity? Or is it something far more sinister? Is a jealous god holding her voice for ransom? The thought makes your blood run cold. You remember the petulant, bored cruelty of the Olympians. You have seen firsthand what they are capable of. If Thelxie is indeed a divine being, then your small, quiet happiness is a transgression. It is a flickering candle in a vast, dark room, and at any moment a divine hand could reach out and snuff it out. The knowledge is a constant low-grade fear, a shadow that lingers even in your brightest moments. You are in love with a woman whose past is a mystery, and whose future is at the mercy of a forgotten curse, and there is nothing you, the man who once moved the heavens, can do to protect her. The arrival of spring on the island is a subtle affair. There are no blossoming trees or vast fields of flowers. Instead, life returns in small, hardy bursts. The sea pinks sprout from the cracks in the rocks, their tiny, resilient heads a vibrant magenta against the grey stone. The gulls become louder, more frantic as they build their nests. The air loses its biting winter edge, replaced by a soft, life-giving breeze. For you and Thelxie, it marks a full year together, a complete cycle of seasons lived in shared, quiet harmony. Your love has deepened, settling into a comfortable domestic rhythm. It is a love expressed not in grand declarations, but in small, daily acts of care. The way you instinctively know when she wants a cup of hot tea. The way she leaves a smooth, warmed stone by your cot on a cold night. It is a peaceful, contained existence. But the peace is a fragile illusion, and you both know it. The whispering salt wind and the mournful phantom song from the sea are constant reminders of the power that holds her in its thrall. You begin to notice strange phenomena, small tears in the fabric of your mundane reality. Sometimes, as you are polishing the great lighthouse lens, you see her reflection in the curved glass, and for a split second her form seems to shimmer, her edges blurring into a watery, ethereal light. On other occasions you watch her walk along the water's edge, and the waves seem to bow to her parting, just enough so that the hems of her silk robes never get wet. One afternoon you are fishing from the rocks while she dozes in the sun nearby. You are having no luck, the water is clear, and the fish are wary. Frustrated, you are about to give up, when Thelxie, without opening her eyes, lifts a hand and makes a slow, graceful gesture towards a spot in the water 20 feet to your left. You sigh, but indulge her casting your line where she indicated. Instantly the line goes taut. You reel in a large, glistening sea bass, the biggest you've ever caught. You look at her astonished, but she just gives you that rare, small smile as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She has a connection to this domain, an innate understanding that goes beyond mortal senses. The evidence is mounting piece by undeniable piece. She is not human. She is a Nereid, a spirit of the sea bound in a mortal-seeming form and silenced by a jealous god. The name Poseidon hangs unspoken in the air between you, a terrifying three-syllable threat. He is the ruler of this domain, a god known for his tempestuous moods and possessive nature. In the grand scheme of Greek mythology, Poseidon was one of the three most powerful Olympians alongside his brothers Zeus and Hades, who drew lots to divide the cosmos. He was not a god to be trifled with. His unseen jealousy begins to manifest more directly. The sea, once your friendly, predictable neighbour, becomes capricious and hostile. Sudden violent squalls blow up on clear days, threatening to smash your small fishing boat against the rocks. The lobster pots you set in the deep channel come up empty or worse, torn apart by a seemingly unnatural force. The gentle waves that once lapped at the shore now crash with a sullen, angry energy. It feels personal. The sea itself is trying to drive you away from her, to reclaim what it has lost. Thelxie feels it too. A constant worry now lives in her beautiful teal eyes. She becomes more protective, often standing on the shore, her silent gaze fixed on the horizon, as if watching for an approaching enemy. She discourages you from going out in the boat, communicating her fear with frantic, urgent gestures. Your sanctuary is becoming a prison besieged by the very element that once sustained you. You think of the strange fringe belief you read about that the sea itself was a conscious entity, not just the domain of a god, but a primal being in its own right. Some coastal cultures believed in offering libations directly to the waves, asking for safe passage, or a bountiful catch bypassing the Olympian gods entirely. Looking at the angry churning water, you feel the truth in that belief. The sea knows she is here and it wants her back, or rather, its master does. The breaking point comes one evening. You are both inside the lighthouse, the door barred against a sudden violent gale. The phantom song from the deep is louder than it has ever been, a clear, heartbreaking melody that seems to weave itself through the howling of the wind. Thelxie is pale, her hands pressed against her ears, as if to block out the sound of her own stolen voice. She is trembling, her usual serene composure shattered. She grabs a piece of charcoal, and on the stone floor she draws with a desperate, frantic energy. She draws a trident, the unmistakable symbol of Poseidon. Then she draws the trident, pointing at a crude figure of herself. Beside her she draws a string of musical notes, but she scratches a violent X through them. A curse. Then she draws your lighthouse and a stick figure of you. She circles you and her and draws a heart, a simple, childlike drawing of love. And then, with a final trembling stroke, she draws the trident again, this time pointing directly at you, at the heart shattering it. The message is as clear as it is devastating. His jealousy is no longer just a suspicion. It is a direct threat. He knows about you, and he will not tolerate your love. The charcoal drawing on the floor is a brutal, artless prophecy. It lies between you, a stark, black and white declaration of war from a god. The gale outside shrieks a perfect soundtrack to the terror that has just invaded your sanctuary. Thelxie is shaking, not from the cold, but from a deep, soul-shaking fear. Not for herself, you realize, but for you, her protector, the one whose love has become her crime. You reach out and take her trembling hands in yours. They are cold as sea stone. You try to offer a reassuring smile, but it feels like a cracked mask. What reassurance can a mortal offer against the wrath of the Earthshaker, the Storm Bringer? You are a man who polishes a lamp. He is a god who commands the vast, untamable power of the world's oceans. The odds are, to put it mildly, not in your favour. From that night on, the marks of Poseidon's claim become more overt, more aggressive. It's as if her confession of the truth has given him permission to abandon all subtlety. One morning you find a ring of dead, salt-blackened seaweed laid perfectly around the base of the lighthouse, a clear, ominous boundary line. Another time you wake to find the single window of your living chamber coated in a thick, opaque layer of salt, blocking out the sun as if the sea itself is trying to blind you. The most unnerving mark appears on Thelxie herself. A faint, shimmering pattern, like the scales of a fish, begins to appear on the back of her hands and along her forearms. It is only visible in certain light, a pearlescent tracery just beneath her skin. When you touch it, her skin is not smooth, but faintly ridged. It is a brand, a mark of ownership. She is his. The sight of it fills you with a hot, helpless rage. You want to fight, to protect her. But how do you punch a god? How do you build a wall high enough to keep out the tide? You remember stories you've read about divine punishments. The Greeks had a particular flair for curses that were both cruel and deeply ironic. Think of Tantalus, who was punished in the underworld by being stood in a pool of water he could never drink under a fruit tree. He could never reach, eternally tormented by the proximity of what he desired. Or Sisyphus, the clever king, who cheated death, forced to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to have it roll back down each time he neared the top. Poseidon's curse on Thelxie is of a similar poetic cruelty, a sea spirit whose essence is song and freedom is trapped in silence and bound to a single tiny patch of land. Your love is the boulder she is forced to roll. Her health begins to decline. Her otherworldly vitality wanes. She grows paler, thinner. The light in her teal eyes, once so vibrant, begins to dim. She is like a saltwater plant that has been potted in dry earth. She is being starved of her element. Her connection to the sea is both her life force and the conduit for her curse. To be near it is to feel Poseidon's wrath, but to be away from it is to wither. You do everything you can to care for her. You bring her fresh water brew, her nourishing broths from the seabird's eggs, and keep the fire in the hearth constantly burning, a bastion of warmth and dryness against the encroaching hostile damp. But you are treating the symptoms, not the cause. You are trying to patch a leaking ship with canvas and hope, while the ocean is determined to sink it. One evening, as she sleeps fitfully by the fire, you notice a small leather-bound book you've never seen before, tucked into the folds of her silk robes. It must have been with her when she washed ashore. Your hands tremble as you gently slide it free. It's a journal, but not one written in any language you know. The script is a flowing, elegant series of spirals and waves, the written language of the Nereids perhaps. Most of it is indecipherable, but on the last page there is a drawing. It is a stunningly detailed and accurate rendering of your own face, drawn with a loving, meticulous hand. Beneath it, she has written a single word in the Greek alphabet, the letters shaky and unfamiliar, as if drawn by someone who has only ever seen them, never written them. It is your name, and beside your name she has drawn a single, perfect star, Hesperos, the evening star, the last light. A wave of understanding and grief crashes over you. She knows. Somehow she knows your story. She knows you were the one who brought the stars back. To her, you are not just a kind lighthouse keeper. You are a symbol of hope, a mortal who defied the gods and won. She sees you as a hero, her hero. The irony is crushing. You, the man who defeated the apathy of Olympus, are now utterly powerless against the jealousy of a single god. You hold the book to your chest, the silent written confession of her love, a heavier weight than any secret you have ever carried. The mark of her claim on you is a name and a star. The mark of his claim on her is a creeping, scaly silence. And you know with a dreadful certainty that this imbalance cannot hold. A choice is coming. The supply boat is late, weeks late. Spring has bled into the long, warm days of early summer, and still there is no sign of Lycomedes' weathered sail on the horizon. Your stores of oil are running low and the last of the flour is nearly gone. But it's not the lack of supplies that worries you. It's the isolation. It feels deliberate, as if Poseidon has drawn a line of quarantine around your island, forbidding any mortal vessel from approaching. Your sanctuary has become a cage. Thelxie is weaker, her movements slow and languid. She spends most of her days sitting by the window, staring out at the hostile sea, a silent, heartbreaking vigil. The pearlescent scales on her skin are more pronounced now, catching the light with a faint, sickly shimmer. She is fading, and with every passing day your desperation grows into a sharp, bitter ache. One afternoon you are scanning the horizon from the top of the lighthouse, a pointless, hopeful ritual when you see it. A small boat, its single sail, a dirty white triangle against the brilliant blue of the sea. It's not like Lycomedes' familiar vessel. This one is smaller, more battered, and it's struggling against the unnaturally strong currents that now guard your island. It seems to be making no headway, pushed back 2 feet for every foot it gains. You watch your heart in your throat as the small boat battles the sea for over an hour. It is an act of sheer, stubborn defiance. Finally, as if the sea itself has grown bored with the game, the currents seem to relax for a moment, and the boat surges forward, managing to slip into the relative calm of your protected cove. An old woman climbs out her movements, surprisingly nimble for her age. She is weathered and brown as a walnut, her face a nest of deep-set wrinkles. She wears the simple dark robes of a travelling seer or a village wise woman. She ignores you completely, her gaze fixed on the water. She walks to the edge of the cove, kneels down and trails her fingers in the waves, her eyes closed in concentration. You scramble down the winding stairs of the lighthouse to meet her. Thelxie is already at the door, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and a sliver of something else recognition. The old woman stands up, shaking the water from her hand, and turns to face you. Her eyes are a pale, cloudy grey like a winter sky, and they seem to look straight through you. The sea is angry, she says, her voice raspy like stones grinding together. It has lost something precious, and it has found something it hates. She looks from you to Thelxie, her gaze lingering on the silent Nereid. A bad combination. Who are you, you ask? A reader of tides, she replies dismissively. A listener to the wind. Names are unimportant. I am here because the balance is broken. The whole coast feels it. The fish are scarce. The storms are unnatural. It all leads here, to this rock, to you. She accepts your offer of water, but refuses food. She sits on a stone bench outside the lighthouse, her unsettling gaze taking everything in. She speaks of omens of the way the gulls have been crying a song of sorrow, of the way the salt is crystallizing in unnatural spiral patterns on the rocks. It reminds you of the strange fringe beliefs of the ancient Etruscans, who practiced a complex form of divination called haruspicy, where they would read the future in the entrails of sacrificed animals. This woman reads the future in the entrails of the sea itself. He has bound her silence to this place, the seer says, her eyes on Thelxie, who stands silently in the doorway listening. The curse feeds on her love for you and on your proximity to his domain. The longer she stays here silent and landbound, the more she will fade. Her life force is draining back into the water, a tribute to his wounded pride. What can I do? You ask, your voice tight with desperation. The old woman lets out a dry, humorless cackle. Do you are a mortal man. You're a mayfly arguing with a hurricane. You cannot fight him. You cannot reason with him. The god's pride is a bottomless, thirsty thing. She leans forward, her cloudy eyes fixing on you with a terrible intensity. There's only one currency a god like that understands. Sacrifice. A choice. A price must be paid. She doesn't elaborate, she doesn't need to. The horrible simple logic of it settles in your soul like a shroud. To save her, you must leave her. To break the curse, you must break her heart. Or there is another choice, a darker one. If her curse is bound to her love for you, then if you no longer exist. The seer seems to read your thoughts. Be careful, lighthouse keeper, she whispers, her voice dropping to a low conspiratorial hiss. A sacrifice made in anger is just a death. A sacrifice made from love, that is a thing that can change the world. It can even make a god pause. She stands up, her brief audience over. I have read the tide. I have delivered the warning. The choice is yours. She makes her way back to her small boat without a backward glance. As she pushes off from the shore, she calls out one last thing, her voice carrying strangely over the water. The silent one has a name, you know. He stole it from her, but she never forgot it. Ask her to write it for you. There is power in a true name. The boat catches the wind and moves out of the cove, leaving you and Thelxie alone again on the shore, the seer's words hanging between you like a death sentence. The choice is yours. A choice between a broken heart and a broken life. The seer's visit shatters the fragile peace of your island. Her words, a price must be paid, echo in the silence between you and Thelxie, a constant tolling bell. The choice she laid before you is a cruel one, a classic mythological dilemma with no good outcome. You can leave her breaking both your hearts but potentially saving her life. Or you can stay and watch her fade into nothing, a slow, agonizing death by proximity. Or the third unspoken option, the one that whispers in the darkest corners of your mind, your own sacrifice. You spend the next few days in a haze of grief and indecision. Every loving glance from Thelxie, every gentle touch, feels like a turn of the screw. Your happiness has become the poison that is killing her. The idyllic life you built together now seems like a beautifully constructed cage, and the door has just been slammed shut. One evening, you sit together on the rocks watching the sun bleed across the horizon. The sky is a riot of crimson and gold, but the beauty feels mocking. Thelxie seems to sense the turmoil in your soul. She takes your hand, her own feeling frail and cool. She looks at you with an expression of such profound, heartbreaking love that it almost brings you to your knees. You remember the seer's final words. Ask her to write her name. You pick up a piece of driftwood smooth on one side and hand it to her, along with a sharp piece of charcoal. Your name, you whisper, your voice thick with unshed tears. Your true name. She looks at you, her teal eyes full of a sudden shimmering light. She understands the significance. A true name holds power. It is the core of one's being. To share it is the ultimate act of trust. To have it stolen is the ultimate violation. She takes the charcoal, her hand trembling slightly. On the smooth surface of the wood she begins to write. The letters are flowing and graceful, the language of the sea, the same script you saw in her hidden journal. But this time, you are not just seeing the marks. You are feeling them. As she writes, a faint, ethereal music fills the air around you. It is the ghost of her voice, the echo of her stolen song manifesting in the twilight. The air grows thick with the scent of deep ocean of salt water and ancient hidden pearls. The letters she draws seem to glow with a soft internal luminescence. She finishes the final elegant swirl and looks up at you. She has not just written a name, she has revealed her soul. And in that instant you know, you don't read the name, you absorb it. Nerida. It means sea nymph, but it is so much more. It is her. The knowledge of it settles inside you, a glowing, perfect pearl of truth. At the same time, the truth of her curse becomes devastatingly fully clear. In that moment of shared perfect understanding, something shifts. The water in the rock pool beside you begins to shimmer its surface, rippling not from the wind, but from an internal energy. The water rises, coalescing, pulling itself up from the pool into a standing human-sized column of shimmering, transparent liquid. The column solidifies the water, hardening into the form of a man. He is tall and broad-shouldered with a wild, dark beard tangled with seaweed and tiny shells. His eyes are the stormy grey of a winter sea, and in his hand he holds a massive three-pronged trident that hums with latent power. Poseidon. He has not come with the roar of a tidal wave or the crack of a thunderclap. He has simply arrived, a quiet, menacing presence that sucks all the warmth from the air. He looks at Nerida and then at you, and a slow, cruel smile spreads across his face. It is not the bored apathy of the Olympians you met before. This is something far more terrifying, the focused, possessive rage of a spurned lover. So, the god of the sea says, his voice a low, rumbling tide. The little mortal has learned her name. Does it make you feel powerful, man? To know the name of a thing you can never truly have. Nerida stands protectively in front of you, her small form defiant against the towering god. She glares at him, a silent, furious challenge. Poseidon laughs, a sound like waves crashing on rocks. Still defiant, my little pearl. I gave you a simple choice. Silence and solitude or a return to my halls. But you chose a third path. You chose him. He gestures at you with his trident, a gesture of utter contempt. This fleeting, fragile creature. This speck of dust on the shore of my ocean. He takes a step forward, the ground trembling slightly. I have been patient. I have sent warnings. I have shown you the consequences of your little game. But you persist. His smile fades, replaced by a cold, hard fury. The game is over. Now you will be reminded of who you are, and who you belong to. He raises his trident, its three prongs glowing with a malevolent green light. He is not pointing it at you. He is pointing it at Nerida. The final terrible choice has arrived. The three prongs of the trident glow with a sickly green light, a venomous energy that seems to leach the colour from the air around it. The humming sound it emits is no longer a low thrum, but a high-pitched, menacing whine, the sound of immense power barely contained. Nerida stands unflinching before you, a fragile shield of love against a tidal wave of divine rage. Her jaw is set, her small hands clenched into fists. She will not let him harm you. You have grown bold, little Nerid, Poseidon says, his voice deceptively soft now, which is somehow more terrifying than his rage. Forgetting your place, forgetting your nature, you are of the sea. You are of me. This land. He gestures dismissively at the island at your lighthouse, at your entire world is a prison for you, and he is your jailer. She chose this prison, you say, your voice coming out stronger than you expected. You step out from behind Nerida, placing a hand on her shoulder and moving to stand beside her. She chose me. Poseidon's stormy grey eyes fix on you. It feels like being pinned by the weight of the entire ocean. Choice, he scoffs the word, dripping with derision. Mortals and their fleeting little choices. You choose to be born, you choose to die. Everything in between is just a distraction. She did not choose. She defied, and defiance has a price. He lowers the trident slightly, the green glow dimming, and a look of cruel calculation enters his eyes. He is no longer just a raging, jealous god. He is a master of bargains, a dealer in ultimatums. But because I am a benevolent ruler, he says the lie so blatant it's almost funny. I will offer you one final choice. Not her. You. He turns his full attention to you. Here are the terms, lighthouse keeper. Your love is the anchor that holds her here in this withered land-bound state. It is also the lock on her voice. As long as she loves you, she will be silent and she will fade. I have designed it so. A perfect self-sustaining punishment. He pauses, letting the cruel elegance of his curse sink in. So, you have two paths. Path the first, you renounce her. You pack your little bag, get in that old woman's rickety boat, and you sail away. You never look back. The moment your love is no longer a physical presence in her world, the curse will weaken. She will not be whole never again, but her voice will return, and she will be compelled to come back to my halls, where she will serve me for eternity. Her heart will be broken, but she will live. As a beautiful sad ornament in my court. The image is horrifying. Nereida, a prisoner in Poseidon's undersea palace, her spirit shattered, forced to sing for the very god who destroyed her happiness. Or Poseidon continues his voice, dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. There is path the second. You can stay. You can cling to your precious stolen love, and you can watch her die. Slowly. You can watch her fade day by day until she is nothing more than a handful of sea foam and a sad memory. Your love will be her tomb. He smiles again, that terrible, cruel smile. But I will offer you a third option, a special one-time offer just for you, because I so admire mortal defiance. He leans in his voice, a low, intimate rumble. There is a way to break the curse completely, to free her. Not just from silence, but from me. She could be her own creature again, free to choose the land or the sea, her voice and her power fully restored. Hope, a stupid, treacherous thing, flickers in your chest. How simple Poseidon says the cruel punchline finally delivered. The curse is bound to her love for you. So if you cease to exist, the object of her love is gone. The anchor is lifted. The curse shatters. He straightens up his expression, one of triumphant finality. I give you this power, mortal, the power to unmake yourself. Step into my domain. He gestures with the trident towards the churning grey water at the edge of the rocks. Give yourself to the sea, your life in exchange for her freedom. A true and total sacrifice. He has laid the choice bare. Her heartbreak, her death, or your own. It is the ultimate test, the kind of impossible dilemma the gods have relished posing to mortals since the dawn of time. You look at Nereida. Tears are streaming down her face, but she is shaking her head frantically, her eyes screaming, "No, no, no." She would rather fade into sea foam than accept your sacrifice. But you look at her, at the shimmering scales on her skin, at the dimming light in her eyes, and you know there is no choice at all. There is only one path. You think of the seer's words, a sacrifice made from love. That is a thing that can change the world. You turn to Nereida and gently cup her face in your hands. You lean in and kiss her, a long, deep, final kiss that tastes of salt and sorrow, and a love that is stronger than any god's rage. You pull back and look into her eyes. I love you, you whisper, and then before she can stop you, you turn and walk towards the sea. You walk towards the edge of the rocks, your back to the two beings, one divine, one deity, who have defined your world. You don't look back. You can't. If you see the agony in Nereida's eyes, your resolve might crumble, and resolve is the only thing you have left. The sea before you is no longer just water. It is a presence, a more, a final destination. The waves crash against the shore with a hungry waiting sound. A noble choice. Poseidon's voice booms from behind you, laced with cynical amusement. He is enjoying this, the grand, tragic spectacle. How very mortal of you, always choosing the dramatic exit. You ignore him. You have made your bargain. The only thing that matters now is seeing it through. You reach the edge of the cliff, a drop of some 20 feet to the churning foam-laced water below. The wind whips at your clothes, tasting of salt and finality. You take a deep, shuddering breath. In your mind, you see a flash of your life, your quiet workshop, the silent dance of the celestial gears, the face of a dying goddess in a dream, the triumphant return of the stars, and then only Nerida, her smile, the touch of her hand, the silent language of shells on a flat stone. It was a short life, but it was a good one. A life that held for a brief shining moment a love worth dying for. You close your eyes and step off the edge. For a moment there is only the feeling of falling, the rush of air, the roar of the sea rising to meet you. Then impact. The water is not just cold, it is a shock to the system, a crushing absolute cold that seems to suck the very heat from your bones. It doesn't feel like water. It feels like a solid thing, a heavy liquid hand that seizes you, pulling you down. You're not drowning in a conventional way. You are being unmade. As you sink into the depths, the water pressing in on you from all sides, you feel your physical form begin to dissolve. It's not painful. It's a strange, gentle and terrifying process of erasure. Your memories go first. The image of your workshop fades. The names of the constellations blur and vanish. The face of Nyx becomes a formless shadow. Everything that made you you is being washed away by the relentless divine tide. But one thing remains, a single stubborn point of light in the dissolving darkness of your consciousness. Her face, Nerida, her name, the feeling of her hand in yours. Your love for her is the last thing to go, a final defiant ember against the encroaching void. And as that too begins to fade, you let it go willingly. This is the price. This is the sacrifice. Your complete and utter annihilation. And then, as your last flicker of self is about to be extinguished, you hear it. It is a sound that pierces the crushing silence of the depths. It is a voice, a single perfect note of impossible beauty and earth-shattering grief. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard, and it is a sound of pure, unadulterated agony. Her voice has returned. The sound of it, the sheer power of her freed essence rips through the water. The sea itself recoils. The crushing pressure around you vanishes. The curse is broken, and her voice, her magnificent, terrible, beautiful voice sings a single word. Lyra, it is your name. Not the simple common name you were given at birth, but your true name, the name you yourself never knew you had. The name that means lyre, the instrument of poets, the weaver of songs, the symbol of hope. It is the name she gave you in her heart, the name she drew beside a single hopeful star. And as your true name, sung by her true voice, washes over you, the process of your unmaking halts. You are no longer dissolving. You are changing. You are no longer a man. You are no longer anything with form or substance. You have become pure potential. You are the echo of a loving sacrifice. You are the space between the notes of her first sorrowful song. On the shore, Nerida stands, her hand outstretched, tears streaming down her face as she watches the spot where you disappeared. Her voice is back, a gift bought at an unbearable price. Poseidon looks from her to the sea, his expression no longer triumphant, but startled, almost fearful. He had expected a simple death, a neat and tidy end to a mortal annoyance. He had not expected this. He had not expected a sacrifice so pure it could rewrite the rules of his own curse. He had not expected the power of a true name sung with the full force of a love that transcends life and death. He looks at the grieving Nereid, at the raw, untamable power she now commands, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the god of the sea feels a sliver of something that is not pride, not rage, but awe. He has won the battle, but he has lost the war. He has reclaimed nothing. He has only revealed the depth of what he has lost. Without another word, he dissolves back into a column of water, retreating into his silent, empty kingdom. Nerida is alone on the shore, her voice restored, her freedom won. But the one thing in the universe she wants to speak to is gone. She falls to her knees on the sand and she begins to sing. It is a song of grief, of love, of sacrifice. It is a song for the lighthouse keeper, the starlight thief, the man named Lyra. And her song travels out over the waves across the entire world. They say that sailors on the most distant seas sometimes hear it on a still night, a beautiful, heartbreaking melody that speaks of a love that was stronger than the gods. They say it is the song of the sea itself, mourning a loss it can never recover. And they say that if you listen closely in the silence between the waves, you can still hear the echo of a single whispered name. Your story as a man ends in the grey, churning water of the Aegean. But your essence, the thing that was named Lyra, lingers. You are a memory, a resonance, a quiet hum beneath the surface of the world. Now let us leave that lonely singing shore and travel. Let us drift on the winds of story to a different island, a place famous not for its lighthouses, but for its stone. We go to Paros, an island in the Cyclades renowned throughout the ancient world for one thing, its marble. Parian marble was the gold standard. It possessed a unique luminous quality, a fine-grained translucent character that made it seem to glow from within. The greatest sculptors of the age, Phidias Praxiteles, would use nothing else for their most important works. The Venus de Milo, the winged victory of Samothrace. These masterpieces were born from the quarries of Paros. You are a young man born on this island, but you are not a quarrier. You do not cleave the stone from the mountain. You are a sculptor. Your name is Alaster, and you believe that a statue is not something you create, but something you release. Your workshop is a dusty, sun-drenched space open to the sea air. It is filled with the ghosts of future statues, massive raw blocks of Parian marble, each one waiting for you to discover the form that sleeps within it. Your hands, though you are still young, are already the hands of a master. They are calloused and strong, but your touch is deft and sensitive. You can run your palm over a block of stone and feel the subtle shifts in its grain, sense the hidden flaws and intuit the shape that it yearns to become. Other sculptors on the island are artisans. They are skilled, they are precise, they are masters of their craft. They create beautiful, lifelike statues of gods, heroes, and wealthy patrons. Their work is technically perfect. But your work is different. It has a soul. When you carve a statue of a grieving mother, the stone itself seems to weep. When you shape a triumphant athlete, the marble seems to pulse with a silent, victorious heartbeat. You don't just carve forms, you carve feelings, but you are restless. You feel you have reached the limit of what mortal skill can achieve. You can replicate an emotion perfectly, but you want to do more. You want to create it. You want to carve a statue that doesn't just depict hope, but one that instills hope in all who see it. You want to shape a figure of courage that makes the timid feel brave. This is not just sculpture. This is a form of magic, a power that hovers on the edge of the divine. To achieve this, you know you cannot stay on Paros surrounded by craftsmen who see stone as mere material. You need to seek out teachers who understand that stone is a living thing. You need to find the dactyls. The dactyls are beings of myth so ancient they predate the Olympians. They are the finger gods, ancient smiths and magicians of the earth, born from the goddess Rhea, when she dug her fingers into the soil during the birth of Zeus. Historians still argue about their origins and nature. Some sources say they were from Crete, others from Phrygia. Some say there were 5, others 10. They are figures of the fringe spirits of creation who taught humanity the arts of metalworking and healing. And according to the most obscure legends, they were the first to understand the magic inherent in stone. So you leave your workshop, your tools, and your island behind. Your quest takes you to the rugged wild mountains of Crete, a land of ancient secrets and forgotten gods. You are not guided by a map or a divine lens, but by a sculptor's intuition, a deep, resonant pull towards a place where the earth's creative energy is strongest. You travel for weeks living off the land, your senses attuned not to the sights and sounds of the world, but to the feel of the earth beneath your feet. You are searching for a specific vibration, a thrumming in the stone that tells you you are close. Finally, in a remote, inaccessible valley, on the slopes of Mount Ida, the very mountain where the infant Zeus was hidden from his father Kronos, you find it. There is no grand entrance, no temple. There is only a cave, its mouth hidden behind a curtain of ancient ivy. But the stone around the cave hums with a palpable creative energy. It feels alive. You step inside into the cool, earthy darkness. The cave is a massive natural foundry, a lava tube repurposed. In the centre, a fire burns with a strange blue-white light that casts no smoke. And around the fire are figures short and gnarled as ancient tree roots, their hands thick and powerful, their eyes glowing with the reflected light of the forge. The dactyls. They do not seem surprised to see you. They look up from their work. One is hammering a piece of raw iron into the shape of a lightning bolt. Another is weaving threads of silver into a delicate net. And they watch you, their ancient earthy eyes assessing you. You do not speak. You simply open your hands, showing them your calluses, the stone dust permanently ingrained in the lines of your skin. You are not a petitioner. You are a fellow craftsman, a student seeking masters. One of the dactyls, the oldest, whose skin is wrinkled and cracked like dry clay, beckons you forward with a single crooked finger. Your apprenticeship is about to begin. You will learn not just how to shape stone, but how to listen to its song, how to feel its dreams, and how to imbue it with a life of its own. Your apprenticeship in the Dactyl's Forge is unlike anything you could have imagined. There are no lectures, no diagrams, no verbal instructions. Communication is conducted through grunts gestures and the shared rhythmic language of the hammer. It's the ultimate unpaid internship, and your bosses are cranky primordial earth spirits who smell faintly of ozone and hot rock. For the first month, they don't even let you touch a tool. Your task is to sit. In a corner of the vast humming cavern, you are instructed through a series of emphatic pointing gestures from the eldest dactyl to place your hands on a large uncut block of raw marble and simply listen. At first, you think it's a form of hazing a test of your patience. You are a man of action, a creature of hands and dust. Sitting still feels like a punishment. You hear nothing but the ringing in your own ears and the distant rhythmic clang of the dactyl's hammers. You feel nothing but the cold, inert surface of the stone. Days bleed into a week. You grow frustrated, restless. You are a master sculptor, reduced to the role of a garden gnome. You almost give up, ready to walk out and return to your world of predictable craft. But on the 8th day, as you sit in deep meditative silence, something shifts. The ringing in your ears fades, and beneath it you hear something else. A low, resonant hum so deep it's more a feeling in your bones than a sound in your ears. It is the mountain. It is the stone. It is singing. You close your eyes and focus, and the song becomes clearer. It is a slow, powerful geological melody. You can feel the millennia of pressure that formed the marble, the memory of ancient seas, the slow, patient weight of the earth. The stone is not dead. It is just sleeping, and it is dreaming of what it wants to become. This is your first and most important lesson. You are not here to command the stone. You are here to learn its language. When the dactyls see the change in you, the new profound stillness in your posture, they wordlessly hand you your first tool. It is not one of your familiar trusted chisels. It is a single long shard of what looks like volcanic glass, its edge impossibly sharp. They gesture for you to work on a small block of stone. When you place the obsidian shard against the marble, it doesn't chip or crack the surface. With a gentle pressure, it peels it away in a long, silent curl, like peeling the skin from a piece of fruit. The stone offers no resistance. It yields. Your old tools feel clumsy and brutish in your memory now. A typical Greek sculptor would use a variety of chisels. A point chisel for roughing out the shape, a claw chisel with multiple teeth for modelling, and finally a flat chisel for smoothing the surface. Those tools were for conquering the stone. These new tools, you realise, are for collaborating with it. Your education deepens. The dactyls teach you that to sculpt an emotion you must first become a vessel for it. To carve grief, they lead you to a hidden grotto deep within the cave system. Here water drips from the ceiling into a perfectly still dark pool. Each drip makes a sound like a single liquid sob. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and sorrow. They leave you there for 3 days with a block of stone and a single tool. You're not to carve until the stone itself begins to weep in your hands. You sit in the dark listening to the relentless heartbreaking rhythm of the water until you feel a sorrow so profound it seems to emanate from the core of the earth itself. Only then do you pick up your tool, and when you carve, your hands move with an understanding that bypasses your conscious mind. You are not just sculpting the image of a grieving man, you are releasing the grief that was already sleeping in the stone. To learn joy, they take you out of the cave and high up the mountain slope to a place where the sun beats down on a vein of marble so white and crystalline it sparkles. You work in the brilliant warm light, surrounded by the buzz of bees and the scent of wild thyme. The stone itself feels warm, alive, saturated with centuries of sunlight. The statue you create there, a laughing child chasing a butterfly, seems to radiate a genuine, uncomplicated happiness. Art historians and archaeologists still debate whether the idealized forms in Greek sculpture represented a divine standard of beauty or were a philosophical expression of perfected human potential. You realize the dactyls are teaching you a third way. You are not sculpting the ideal form, but the archetypal feeling. You are not creating a representation of hope. You are learning to distill the essence of hope itself into physical form. After a year, or perhaps a decade time moves strangely in this place, the dactyls deem your apprenticeship complete. There is no ceremony, no final test. One morning you wake to find your old familiar tool roll sitting by your sleeping mat, cleaned and oiled. Your strange magical dactyl tools are gone. The message is clear. It is time to go. You have learned all they can teach you. You bow to each of the gnarled ancient smiths. They simply nod back their glowing eyes, filled with a gruff, paternal respect. You walk out of the cave back into the mortal world. The sunlight feels different, the air crisper. You are still Alastor the sculptor from Paros, but you are also something more. You are a keeper of a dangerous and beautiful secret. You know how to make stone feel, and you are ready to begin your masterpiece. You return to Paros a changed man. On the outside, you are the same calloused hands, the same quiet demeanor. But on the inside, a new understanding of your craft burns with a steady, quiet light. You walk through the familiar streets of your hometown past the workshops of other sculptors. You hear the familiar clink, clink, clink of their hammers and chisels, a sound you once found comforting. Now it sounds like a foreign language, a crude and percussive dialect, compared to the silent, yielding song of the stone you learned to hear in the dactyl's forge. Your own workshop is just as you left it, covered in a fine layer of white dust. The raw waiting blocks of marble seem like old friends. You run your hand over the nearest one, and this time the connection is instant and electric. The hum is no longer a faint, distant melody. It is a clear, vibrant chord. You can feel the dream sleeping within the stone, the forms it yearns to take. You no longer see a block of inert material. You see a library of trapped potential. Word of your return spreads through the island. Patrons, wealthy merchants, and civic leaders who once clamoured for your work begin to arrive at your workshop, their minds full of commissions for heroic statues of themselves or idealized portraits of their wives. They speak of capturing a noble bearing or a virtuous smile. You listen patiently, but their requests now feel hollow and small. They want you to carve surfaces to create beautiful dead things, and you are no longer interested in beautiful dead things. You politely refuse their commissions, much to their confusion and anger. The man has lost his mind in the mountains. One merchant grumbles as he leaves your workshop, his purse still heavy. He has forgotten his craft, but you haven't forgotten it. You have transcended it. You spend weeks in quiet preparation, not yet touching a chisel. You are searching for the right block of stone for your magnum opus, the project that has been solidifying in your mind since you left the dactyls. You want to sculpt hope, not the allegorical figure of a woman holding an anchor or a bird. You want to sculpt the feeling itself, a statue that when beheld will make the grieving feel a flicker of light, the defeated feel a surge of strength, the cynical feel a crack in their armour of despair. You search your own stock, but none of the blocks feel right. They dream of being warriors or lovers or gods. They do not dream of being an abstract virtue. So you travel to the great marble quarries of Paros the Marorota, the very source of your island's fame. The quarries were a marvel of ancient engineering, vast cavernous pits and underground galleries where the stone was mined. The most prized marble licknites was named so because it was mined deep underground by the light of lamps licknoi, and it possessed that famous luminous translucence. You descend into the cool subterranean galleries, the air thick with the smell of stone dust and human sweat. You wander through the vast, echoing chambers past the quarriers with their heavy hammers and wedges. You are not looking at the freshly cut blocks. You are looking for something that has been overlooked, forgotten. In a deep, abandoned gallery you find it. It is a single colossal block, half buried in the quarry floor. It was clearly abandoned mid-excavation centuries ago. It has a flaw, a deep diagonal crack near the top, a flaw that would make it useless for the clean, perfect lines of a temple column or a classical god. The other sculptors would see it as worthless. But you see the flaw not as a weakness but as a feature. It is a line of old pain, a memory of geological stress, and you know that hope is not born from perfection, it is born from resilience. It is a flower that grows from a crack in the stone. This is your block. It takes weeks to have the massive block transported to your workshop. When it finally arrives, it dominates the space, a mountain of flawed, forgotten potential. You spend another week just sitting with it, as the dactyls taught you. You listen to its song, a deep, complex melody of ancient pressure, sudden fracture, and long, patient waiting. Finally, you are ready. You do not pick up your familiar tools. Instead, you unwrap the single precious gift the dactyls left for you, a tool you had not noticed until you returned home. It is a small, unassuming chisel, its handle made of gnarled olive wood, its tip forged from a metal that seems to drink the light, a sliver of the same divine material their own tools were made from. It is a key, a bridge between your mortal skill and the earth magic you learned. You place the tip of this dactyl-forged chisel against the stone. You do not strike it with a mallet, you simply push. And with a soft sighing sound, the first perfect curling shaving of marble falls silently to the floor. The work has begun. You are not just shaping living stone, you are shaping the world's capacity to feel. And as you work, the flawed, forgotten block begins to glow with a soft internal light, as if a star is slowly waking up within it. The creation of the statue becomes your entire world. You do not measure time in days or weeks, but in the slow, rhythmic peeling away of the stone. You work in a state of focused meditative trance, a state the Greeks called ecstasis, a feeling of being outside oneself. The workshop door is barred. The outside world ceases to exist. There is only you, the stone, and the single dactyl-forged chisel that feels like an extension of your own hand. The process is a delicate dance between your will and the stone's own inclination. You follow the grain of the marble, allowing the natural lines and stresses in the stone to guide your hand. The deep diagonal flaw that made other sculptors discard the block becomes the central defining feature of your work. It is not something you try to hide or carve away. You incorporate it, make it the heart of the composition. The form that emerges from the stone is not what anyone would expect. It is not a triumphant radiant goddess with her arms outstretched. It is a figure genderless and timeless curled in on itself. It is kneeling its head, bowed its arms wrapped around its knees. It is a posture of grief, of defeat, of utter vulnerability. It is the posture of a soul that has been brought to the very brink of despair. But this is where the magic lies. From the center of this curled, grieving form, from the very heart of that ancient geological flaw, a single hand is reaching upwards. It is not a fist of defiance. It is an open, questing hand, its fingers unfurling like the petals of a flower seeking the sun. And from this hand, the light emanates. The natural luminous quality of the Parian marble, the licknites, is concentrated and amplified in this single perfect gesture. It glows with a soft, steady internal light that seems to pulse with a slow, reassuring rhythm like a cosmic heartbeat. This is the nature of true hope, you realize as you carve. It is not the absence of pain, but the ability to reach for the light from within the deepest darkness. It is not a loud proclamation, but a quiet, stubborn and persistent gesture. As you work on the final delicate details, the subtle curve of a fingertip, the tension in the bowed back, you pour your own essence into the stone. You channel the memory of the dactyl's earth magic. You recall the feeling of the weeping grotto and the sun-drenched peak. You remember the apathetic gazes of the gods on Olympus, and the profound, lonely hope of the single lighthouse beam cutting through the storm. You even channel the sorrow of Nerida, and the defiant, sacrificial love of Lyra stories that seem to have seeped into your soul from the very air of the islands. You pour all of this feeling, this pathos into the marble. The work takes a toll on you. You grow thin, your eyes sunken and fever bright. You forget to eat to sleep. You are sustained only by the creative energy flowing through you, a current that is both exhilarating and exhausting. You are not just carving a statue, you are giving birth to it, and it is taking your life force as its own. This intense artist-creation relationship is a theme seen in many cultures. The Renaissance artist Benvenuto Cellini, in his autobiography, famously claimed he threw his own furniture into his furnace to achieve the right temperature for casting his masterpiece Perseus, with the head of Medusa, a story of sacrificing the domestic for the artistic. You are sacrificing your own body, your own well-being for your art. Finally, one dawn, it is finished. You step back, your body trembling with exhaustion, your dactyl-forged chisel falling from your numb fingers. The statue stands before you in the pale morning light, and it is more than you ever imagined. It is alive. The soft internal glow from the outstretched hand seems to fill the entire workshop, casting gentle moving shadows. The light is warm, and it carries with it a feeling, a palpable, undeniable sensation of peace, of resilience, of the quiet, unshakable belief that even after the longest night the sun will rise. It is hope captured and made manifest. You stand before your creation and you weep, not from sorrow, but from a profound, overwhelming sense of awe and completion. You have done it. You have created a work that transcends craft, that transcends art. You have created a vessel for one of the world's most fundamental and necessary magics. The question now, as you look upon its gentle, powerful light, is, what do you do with it? Your instinct is to share it, to place it in the center of the town square for all to see. But another colder feeling begins to creep into your heart, a possessive, fearful pride. It is too perfect. It is too precious. Is the world truly worthy of it? In the quiet days that follow, Thelxie becomes both mystery and companion. She moves through the lighthouse like a song without lyrics, a melody played on tides and wind. Though her voice remains lost to the storm that delivered her, her presence speaks in other ways through the precision of her hands, the stillness of her gaze, the subtle tilt of her head as she listens to the sea like it's whispering secrets only she can understand. You try not to pry, but questions collect in your chest like driftwood at high tide. Who is she? Where did she come from? Why does the sea, which rarely gives back what it claims, return her intact, veiled in silk and silence? She takes to the rhythms of the lighthouse easily. Without words, she understands its language, the turning of the great lamp, the polishing of its glass heart, the daily climb of the spiral stairs, the oil and flame. She handles the brass fittings as if she's known them for lifetimes. She tends the flame with reverence as though it is kin. And in those moments when you catch her fingers hovering over the lens just a second too long, her face half lit in its glow, you wonder if she recognizes something in it, or if it recognizes her. At night, you climb the stairs together to the top balcony where the stars stretch endlessly above the Black Sea. She always looks up, not just as a habit like you once did, but as a ritual. Her gaze is deep and focused, as if she's listening to a conversation written in starlight. You try to follow her eyes, try to see what she sees. But where you find beauty, she seems to find memory. She never writes, though. You offer her charcoal and parchment. She only draws fluid curling symbols, unlike any alphabet you've seen. They look like tide patterns and eddies in ink. When you ask what they mean, she smiles faintly and presses your hand to her chest. There beneath the fabric you feel the steady beat of a heart that does not seem entirely mortal. There is a tenderness that grows between you, a wordless trust that forms like the moon's pull on water, gentle but inescapable. you find yourself moving more quietly, thinking before speaking, not out of fear but out of a desire to match the quiet gravity she carries. Your world, once reduced to stone and flame and stars, is now shared, refracted through her presence like moonlight over waves. One evening, after a long day spent reinforcing the western wall of the tower against winter's coming wrath, you find her in the lamp room, not tending the fire, but standing utterly still facing the glass window with both palms pressed to it. Her eyes are wide, reflecting something you can't see. When you step closer, you realize the flame is not moving. The lighthouse lamp is frozen mid-sweep. The gears have not jammed. The oil has not run dry. The flame itself burns steady. But the beam, the great reaching finger of light, is no longer turning. It's as if time itself has paused within the glass. Thelxie turns to you, her expression unreadable, and then she steps back. Slowly, deliberately, she raises one hand and points not at the flame, not at the stars, but at the sea. You follow her gaze. The horizon is wrong. The water, usually restless, even in calm, lies utterly still. No ripples, no current, as if the world beyond the lighthouse has forgotten how to breathe. You whisper her name, Thelxie, but she does not answer. She cannot. Instead, she steps forward, places a hand on your chest right where you once held Nyx's lens, and presses firmly. Then she turns and begins descending the stairs without a backward glance. You hesitate. The sea is frozen. The lamp is frozen. And yet something in you is moving, quickening, rising. You feel again the presence you once felt in the orrery, the low hum of divine machinery shifting its weight, but it is no longer distant. It is here. You follow her, down the stairs, through the narrow stone hallway, out the heavy oak door, into the eerie silence of the island. The world is paused. A gull mid-flight hangs motionless in the sky. A droplet of rain suspended from the eave refuses to fall. The tide has pulled back and frozen, revealing strange patterns etched in the seabed, like the symbols she drew. Symbols you now realize were not art, but warning. She walks to the shoreline barefoot, unbothered by the cold stones. The kelp where she was found has returned coiled like offerings around her feet. She turns back to you. She kneels, not in weakness, in invitation. The sea begins to glow, not the surface, but underneath the kind of light you once saw behind the obsidian walls of Olympus. Starfire. 1,000 points of it flickering beneath the waves, rising slowly like memories returning. They do not burn, they shimmer, pulse breathe. And in their rise you feel the return of something ancient and watching. Something that was once content with silence, now stirred by a mortal act of defiance. You step forward. The light touches your bare feet and it is warm. You realize this was never the end of the story. It was the beginning of something else. Something returning. Something remembering. And as the stars beneath the sea begin to speak in light, Thelxie reaches out, takes your hand, and gently guides you into the water. The water should be cold. It should bite your skin, steal your breath, pull you into its depth like a jealous god. But as you follow Thelxie into the shallows, there is no chill. The sea, usually so eager to claim, now cradles you like an old friend. The surface tension gives way without resistance, and with each step the world above fades into the hush of a new, hidden realm. The light surrounds you, not the harsh brilliance of fire or the electric sting of storm, but a gentle pulsing luminance like breath. It filters through the water in layers blue and green and gold, curling around your legs like silk. Thelxie moves ahead of you, her sea silk dress unfurling in slow ribbons. She glides, not swims. Her bare feet barely disturb the sand. The further you descend, the more impossible things become. There is no pressure, no struggle for air. The sea allows you to breathe, not with lungs, but with something deeper. Your body relaxes into the rhythm of it. Inhale, exhale. The salt becomes part of your blood. The weight of your bones feels negotiable. You are becoming something else. Below the seabed glows with constellations etched in coral and pearl. They are not random. You recognize them not as the sky is now, but as it once was. The swan, the great hunter, the chained maiden. But they are wrong too. Older, woven into new shapes. There are symbols here not found in any mortal chart glyphs so ancient that even the Titan Astraeus might struggle to name them. They are the true blueprints of night, not copied by man, but authored by the sea. And in the center of it all, resting on a platform of polished obsidian that rises like an altar from the sand, is a sphere. Smooth, dark, breathing faintly with an inner light. It pulses in time with the beat of the stars overhead. Thelxie approaches it. Her hand hovers just above its surface, trembling. You realize this is why she was brought here. Why the sea delivered her to your island like a message in a bottle written by the moon. This is the heart of something forgotten. The first star, perhaps. Or the seed of the sky. She gestures for you to come forward. You place your hand beside hers just inches above the orb. Immediately you feel the gravity of it, emotional, cosmic, ancient. Not just mass, but memory. Inside the sphere are echoes the laughter of gods at the dawn of time, the first sailor naming the stars, the silent awe of a child seeing Orion for the first time. It is the soul of the night sky, before it was sliced into constellations, before it was measured, before it was named. Thelxie turns to you. Her eyes shimmer not with tears, but with light. She mouths a word. This time sound comes. Not a whisper, not a voice, but a resonance. Her word enters your body like a chord struck on the strings of your bones. You don't hear it so much as feel it echo through every cell. Remember, the sphere awakens. A shockwave of light expands outward, slow and seismic. The coral constellations bloom. The sand lifts and spirals into patterns, forming swirling galaxies before collapsing into dust again. And above, through the mirrored ceiling of the sea, you see the sky shift. Stars rearrange themselves. The constellations you knew are rewritten. New ones form as old as the sea and yet untouched by time. The myths you studied, the stories charted in dusty scrolls. They weren't lies, just incomplete. The sky is correcting itself. It is dreaming new shapes back into being. And you, an instrument maker, a lonely keeper of a lighthouse, are part of the rewriting. Thelxie places her hand flat against the sphere. You do the same. For a moment your mind is flooded with visions. You see Nyx standing at the edge of the world, her arms outstretched to catch her freed children. You see Astrea standing taller than before, gazing at the sky with pride, not grief. You see Olympus abandoned its marble halls, cracking under the weight of their own silence. And then you see your lighthouse, its great lens shining upward, reflecting not the light of a flame, but the stars themselves, becoming a beacon, not for ships, but for the sky. Thelxie's voice echoes again, not a word this time, but a melody. It's the same music you heard when you first freed the stars, a harmony without language, a song made of purpose. You join it, not with sound, but with presence, with memory. The sphere hums louder, then lifts, breaking away from its obsidian cradle. It begins to rise slowly at first, then faster. The light it sheds is soft but infinite. As it moves upward, it leaves behind a trail of glowing water like the tail of a comet. You and Thelxie follow it, rising through the sea as effortlessly as falling snow. When you break the surface, night has returned. Not just darkness, but true night. Alive, infinite, glorious. The stars are not only present, they are watching. They recognize you. You wade to shore in silence, the sphere having vanished into the firmament like a new celestial body. Thelxie walks beside you, and though she still says nothing aloud, you understand her more completely than you have ever understood anyone. You look to the sky, and you see a new constellation. Two figures side by side, one holding a flame, the other the sea. The sea returns to its natural cadence. The stars settle into their new positions, the sky above no longer a silent void, but a symphony of restored purpose. It is no longer simply beautiful, it is awake. Every star feels like an open eye. Every constellation, a sentence in a language you're just beginning to remember how to read. You and Thelxie stand on the sand, your footprints filling with phosphorescent tidewater. You're soaked, breathless, and vibrating with a kind of stillness that can only be found after something enormous has passed through you. The lighthouse looms in the distance, its great lamp still turning in slow, deliberate arcs. But it no longer feels like the center of your world. It is a home, yes, but no longer the only one. The world is vaster now, full a stranger. You feel as though you've just stepped off the edge of the known and into the second stanza of a poem the universe has only now begun to recite again. Thelxie places a hand on your shoulder. Her fingers are cool, wet but steady. You turn to her and see something has changed, not in her body, not in her silence, but in her presence. The stillness she once carried like a heavy veil is lighter now, more open. She is no longer something that washed ashore. She is a current that chose its course. She walks beside you not because she is lost, but because she is arriving. In the weeks that follow, the island shifts its shape, not physically, but in meaning. The tasks remain tending, the lamp polishing the lens, noting the tides. But everything feels infused now with context, like the moments after a great storm when the sun breaks through and everything, even the smallest pebble, gleams with new light. And then one morning, she is gone. There is no note, no trace, no storm. Only a single perfect shell left on your pillow, iridescent and spiraled like a galaxy. You hold it to your ear and hear not the sea but something deeper. A memory, perhaps, or the suggestion of a melody not yet written. You know without knowing that she has returned to where she came from and that her journey with you was never meant to be eternal, only essential. You walk the shoreline each evening, not in longing but in reverence. And the sky, your sky tells you the rest. The new constellation remains. Sometimes it flickers as if winking. Other times it blazes like a quiet affirmation. Sailors begin to chart their journeys by it. Children name the stars within it. Poets romanticize its symmetry. They call it the keeper and the sea. They don't know the truth, of course, but their stories are not wrong. Back on Olympus, the halls remain empty. The gods never returned. Their era, it seems, has finally ended, not in blood or fire, but in boredom and forgetting. The vault is silent, the orrery motionless. Astraeus remains the lone curator of an empty museum, watching over a sky that no longer needs cages. You write letters you never send. To Nyx you thank her for her grief. To Astraeus you thank him for his cynicism and his pause. To the lens you once threw into the sea you whisper thanks in your dreams. Sometimes when the wind is right and the stars are high, you think you hear music from beneath the waves, a deep chord struck by coral fingers in a language not meant for words. Years pass. You become a myth. Some say the lighthouse was once tended by a madman who claimed to have freed the stars. Others whisper that it was a temple and the woman who vanished was a goddess in exile. Children dare one another to climb the rocks and knock on the old wooden door. No one ever answers. But always the light turns steady and true, cutting the night like a blade of memory. And somewhere beyond history, beyond forgetting, a star burns a little brighter each time someone dares to look up. Not for direction, but for wonder. You are no longer there to keep the flame, because you are the flame, and the night sky once lost now knows your name.